Okay. We've been getting yelled at by constituents.
Oh, really?
Give up our own.
Hello, Dr. Young.
That on.
All right, thanks everyone. I'd like to call the September 15th, 2025 FAMPO Policy Committee meeting to order. If everyone could please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These are all an agenda. They're printing the agendas out here.
So before we do the roll call and the determination of quorum, I just wanted to make a couple of quick announcements. Supervisor Banush is going to be joining us remotely today due to a health issue. And Mr. Joe Stainsbury is joining us as an alternate for Bob Schneider and is also going to be, Bob Schneider is at the APTA conference. And he's also going to be joining us remotely.
Good, we have policy.
Well, and I'm supposed to say why, right? So I did. And then I also wanted to make sure that we welcome Dr. Greg Hennion, our new resident.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. No, it is chair's discretion, but I'm supposed to say out loud who's participating remotely and why. Yeah. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Lang for the roll call and the determination of quorum, or
John is going to do it.
okay, Dr. Rideout, thank you.
Good evening, Councilmember Will McIntosh.
Present.
Supervisor Crystal Banush.
Here.
Online.
Here, online.
Supervisor. Here. Councilmember Jonathan Gerlach.
Here.
Councilmember Jen Holmes.
Here.
Supervisor Drew Muller.
Present.
Supervisor Corey Hay.
Here.
Supervisor Mike Bomke.
Here.
Supervisor Pamela Young.
Present.
Representative Secretary of Transportation Greg Hennion.
Here.
Representative of PRTC Joe Stansby.
Present.
All right, Joe, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to item 4, approval of the agenda. We have a motion.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? All right. Let's move on to item 5, public hearings. We have, as you guys can see, a number of public hearings. I suggest that we take them all as a whole.
These are all tip amendments, basically, so it is quite fine to do them together. We don't normally have a lot of public comments, so it would probably take forever to do them one at a time.
So let's, I would like to hereby open the public hearing for resolutions 26-15 through resolutions 26-26. Do we have any members of the public here to speak to any of them? Nope.
We do have some.
All right,
comments.
let's, Mr. Rideout, are you in charge of written comments?
Yes.
Okay.
So Michael Myers, submitted one comment that said no more funding for the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, DRPT, Virginia Railway Express, VRE, and FXBG. Exclamation mark. Go. Online rail line transportation is a huge taxpayer drain for just a few that utilize it. DRPT ridership data must be verified by a third party to be valid. VRE doesn't need expansion for 8 cars. It still doesn't have half the pre-COVID ridership. VRE ridership data must be verified by a third party to be valid. FXBG Go, freight buses are a little used taxpayer funded charity transportation system that should be shut down. FXB Go for ridership data must be verified by a third party to be valid. That is the West system.
Was there not a second one?
Second one?
No. Okay. Elsewhere. Thank you.
Okay. I Seeing no more public comments or no more letters, I hereby declare this public hearing closed. All right, move on to item 6. Public involvement, comments and questions from members of the public are welcome at this time. Anybody any members in the public members of public in this room who would like to speak to the policy committee? And the time limit is 5 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Per
Time limit,
person.
3 minutes. Duraka?
Hey everyone, Al Watkins from George Washington District in Sedona County. Did a little bit of research because I remember that one of the things that we were concerned about when the bridge project was approved or moved forward in June. I wanted to see if there was any data that kind of support the potential for having an additional branch off of option C and then be able to go across the river and ultimately connect to Route 3. So what I wound up doing is I wound up looking at the number of service data that we had available, that I had in model. And the thing that I noticed right away is that along Route 17 and along Route 1, that there was a dramatic improvement in less time to be sitting there waiting at an intersection to be able to go. However, anything that was in Central Park or anything that was in Celebrate Virginia South or along Route 3 had very negligible improvements in some situation, and in other situations it was worse. So essentially, the project is not going to necessarily change if there was a bridge using option C or the no-build bridge. Essentially, the timing was essentially the same. Now, what that meant to me is that if we were able to divide the traffic that would head into the city of Fredericksburg and some of the traffic divided and go into Pennsylvania County, that would most likely alleviate the intersection problems that were shown by the level of service data. So that was one more particular reason why I felt that was, something that should be looked into. And if you remember, it only took 2 letters from 2 different jurisdictions to begin the entire project for the current river project when that information was sent. And the other thing that I did point out when I was speaking last month, was I was looking at which option C was going to be looked at, because the stipulations in the resolution basically are very specific. 6/10 off of the end of Celebrate Virginia Parkway, and then at 1 mile before it cuts across the river and connects into the city of Fredericksburg. The 3 different proposals, and there were 3 of them. It was the original NDI proposal, and then of course there was the one that was done by CTEC that you're familiar with as well. And then there was the FAMPO staff option C. They're very different. They have very different lengths of bridges. They have very different lengths of roadway entirely. They have very different locations about what elevations they cross and whether or not they're going to require a lot of earthwork or not. And then of course, whether or not they're going through the easements or whether or not they are going to demand a lot of tree canopy be eliminated. So those are all different factors that certainly impact the cost of it. And I know that MBI is kind of working towards that, but I'm not sure exactly, of course, not knowing their procedure, what ultimately they are going to use as those factors. Because again, depending upon where they want to put roadway and bridge, it's going to impact. Thank you. And I can use these here. And I'll send them to staff as well. So.
Mr. Watkins, any other members of the community? All right, let's write it. We have some letters submitted.
We have some written comments in there. This is Everman and Woodbrook. I'm living in Leeds Crossing community. My question is when we have sidewalks for Lime Road, please let me know if there is future plans for that. I can't walk or run for my health because there is no sidewalk.
Chairperson, we'll pass that one on to the relevant county and then county staff.
Do we know which line road it is?
That's Lee Hill
Okay,
District,
all right,
yeah.
excellent. Okay.
Okay, from, maybe some.
That leaves cross.
Okay, road. One, the transport, work with other sister counties to assist with wider opportunities for transportation. Daisy, Colorado, Spotsylvania County. I've been a resident of Fredericksburg for almost 2 years. I love this city and all that it offers in amenities. Places to walk and things to do downtown. Troubles. Oh, this one. Troubles I came across when making my way downtown on foot was the intersections of Princess Anne and Lafayette Boulevard. Crossing this area was always daunting and dangerous as there is no crosswalk and cars fly around the corner, making it hard to run or jog safely across. I can't imagine it must be for someone who is not able-bodied to get around town. I would like to see easier access for all, bike lanes not intimidated by cars, pedestrians, walking, and more ride options like the trolley.
You still share that with the relevant jurisdiction, please? Us, thank you.
You wrote
Yeah.
We need crosswalks, Lafayette Boulevard, and Kenmore Avenue.
Definitely not.
There are already streetlights, so just add some crosswalks so I don't die on my way to get some garage, please.
Like that.
Yeah.
No name provided, new sidewalks up built at intersections, why they are so dangerous as easy to trip on.
We don't know where that is.
That had
24,
two-
it said 22401.
Okay, that's, thank you.
The information provided, we need more walkability. No information provided, need bypass roads. Off and on ramps on existing bridges, i.e. Massaponax Church Road. Kenneth Mosby. Salem. Plank Road seems to be parking lot from 3 to 6. More public transit would help. Come out of the question locality. So,
That doesn't make sense either.
Bus working.
Out of the equation locally,
locals come out of the
equation, I think that is, or something. Anyway,
Local song.
Laurel of Stafford. I wish there was a crosswalk to 7-Eleven. William of Fredericksburg. I think this is good because I love to go places, but my preference of transportation is by foot. Adrian, yes.
to school,
I took a car to school. I like it.
that's a kid.
Relic.
That is
No information provided. I feel like there should be more two-way roads and less one-way roads due to traffic. That's the public comment.
Chairperson, just so you know, those handwritten ones come in at information tables. So when Eugene and others do tables at the county fair or at the library or at whatever, then people are free to grab a form and fill in their comments on the spot. And we of course bring them to you so you can see that people are making comments.
We don't know what date, is there a date?
These would have been within the last 3 weeks because the we don't keep them back. As soon as the next policy meeting occurs, we then give them to you. So it's sort of 3 to 4 weeks.
Remind me last meeting, Mr. Lang shared where he was
Yeah.
going to be. It was at the Fredericksburg Farmers Market then?
Yeah, it's
I can't remember.
it is, yes. It's a new thing we've started doing. You will see for tonight, item 11 on your agenda, you'll see a list of the upcoming information tables and fairs that we're attending. So we did Salem Church library, for example, that was like 2 months ago. So we're now putting them on the agenda, so that if anyone in your community wants to go along and get materials about FAMPO, they know where to go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Oz. All right, let's move on to item 7, the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent agenda?
I'll move the consent agenda.
Second was Mr. Yakubowski. Yeah, thank you. All right, all in favor?
I,
Aye. All opposed? Abstention? Passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to item 8. I am moving very quickly.
You are going to get accepted by 7.
Yes. Item 8,
Every month, we hope for a quick ending. but
yes, now here's where it bogs down. This is where it bogs.
I've produced a very short report and it's mostly fun photographs, so I hope we'll get through this quick. Thanks, John. Next slide. Okay, so what I did is try to catch up on some of the rail transportation and how the ridership is doing. And Amtrak was in the media talking about how much they've grown in the last year, and it's currently their highest ridership recorded in, I believe, the month of August since 2009. So that is pretty good. Bearing in mind that the state paid to have additional routes added. So it's not the same number of trips as we had in 2009. There are more trains. So we've added more trains. But that said, the ridership is there to justify having the trains because the trains are filling up. So there is an increase of those different routes of about 4.8% average across all the different routes currently. That was at the end of the financial year, not the calendar year. So it would have been the end of July, I believe.
Mr. Chair. Question. Just on that BRE stuff,
Yes.
because Shannon and Mac don't normally get 2019 data, right, at BRE. All we get is like
The last 3 months.
last year to date, for the, last year, right? So that is very telling to me.
We did.
That we're really still on the lower end, even though our numbers look like they're going up, but they're going up based on 2024 data.
We get
So
the earlier.
we did this on purpose. John actually looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Let's go back to 2019 and then we can make a real
Yeah, no, that's
comparison."
helpful.
And so we did that, and you can see January wasn't great, but since February and March, the numbers have shot up, right? Last year, you were getting 30% of the 2019 ridership. Now you're up to 61 and 62% of the 2019 ridership, which is a significant increase over last year.
Right.
So if they were comparing previous year with this year, they would have shown a massive increase. But I actually think this is a good thing because we've gone from a third of 2019. We're up to 60% of 2019. That's a big improvement in the last 5 months.
Like, it's probably return work made that happen. Now, is that leveled off? You know what I mean?
Well, we'll see when we get to September.
I have a question. So, yeah, okay, so I understand why we're looking at Amtrak ridership because we are sharing the track. But, we don't have a MO or anything with them. We just share the, why, tell me, why is it important, that you're showing Amtrak?
So Amtrak is moving commuters now in Virginia because some
Oh,
of those.
Individual, we're not getting any money from.
So
it's not good.
no, we're actually paying them, not FAMPO, but the state of Virginia has paid extra to add additional trains. I think 2 of those existed before, and 2 of them, the state of Virginia paid extra to add additional train trips through Virginia. And the question that people were asking was, is it needed? Are people going to use it? And Amtrak's response is yes, we've got much higher ridership than we've ever had before. So that Amtrak is actually putting people on those trains, the people who want to use the Amtrak service.
So yes, I totally get that, but for us, for me, I would love them to be on the VRE and not on the Amtrak. And so because they're on Amtrak, more people on there, that means that the route is, the track is being by Amtrak and
Yes.
less for us. And that could put us behind in time, versus shooting for VRE ridership. That's all.
That's true. If I can just point out that VRE does not have reverse commuting trains at all. So I travel sometimes by train to this office from home, and I have to use Amtrak because I cannot use VRE to come south in the morning.
Again, sorry.
I don't know.
Supervisor Funky, you had your hand up.
Oh, yes, thank you. So you indicated that this state is contributing money for the to increase the Amtrak ridership to just provide another option for people.
Yes.
What is that annual amount that the state is putting in?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I will find out for
So
you.
that would be interesting to look at a per person cost for that. Okay, so what is it costing all of us? Because if you look at and now I'll go back to the question that Supervisor Hayes had. If you look over the years during the summer months, the VRE ridership, whether it was COVID or, typically long before COVID, the summer months are always, the numbers always dip because people are on vacation. So Lori, I suspect when we look at July and August at VRE, those numbers will be much higher because,
Yeah.
everybody's back in school and there's no summer.
September, there'll be a big jump as well because then all the universities.
Well, and so the gentleman that said we should shut down, the very first email that came up, Mr. Meyer is one of my constituents. So we talk about transportation a lot. And he's made some very good points. If you look in January at VRE ridership or since COVID, on a per rider amount, the contribution amounts that we all put in for our local jurisdictions, the per ridership amount is huge.
But it's getting better because it's doubled since then, the ridership. It's gone from 30% of 2019 to 60% of 2019. So it's going in the right direction.
Right, I completely understand that, but from a taxpayer standpoint, from his perspective, if you look, over the last 3 years, Stafford County putting in $3.7 million and we only had X amount of riders for that entire year. The federal government employees are all getting, a reduction in their ridership, and they're also getting a huge tax subsidy by the government, Stafford County or Spotsy or the city. Do you see what I'm saying?
It's going to be about 2.5 million riders on VRE this year as compared to 1.4 million on Amtrak. So VRE is not quite double Amtrak, but it's almost double Amtrak's ridership.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about Amtrak versus VRE. I'm just looking at a per rider
Cost.
subsidy cost.
Okay, but
Supervisor Mullins was next, and then Counselor Holmes.
I also want to comment. I'll keep it. Yeah, I'll write this.
I was just gonna add to the Amtrak VRE commuter thing. You're right about the reverse commute VRE, but Amtrak does have friendlier later trains from DC for people that start their day. My wife takes them a lot. She wants to get home as soon as she can, but sometimes Amtrak is friendlier in both directions. So is that.
The future plan is
We
to,
need to get friendlier.
the future plan is that VRE will provide reverse commuting trains, but it's going to take some time before we get there, maybe in 2028 or 2029 or something.
All right, Counselor Holmes and Counselor Grove.
Thank you. So one, I wanted to know what the price difference is between the Amtrak and the VRE and
VRE is much cheaper.
right, like almost less than half, right? So I think that makes a difference as well as, when we're talking about this, it's convenient to have those Amtrak trains go back home for you or the reverse trip, anyway, but but it is not the same as a commuter service.
If VRE offered reverse commuting, I'd switch in seconds.
Well, of
There
course.
would be a skid mark to the ticket office to get the ticket.
Right. The other thing to, Supervisor Baumke's point, I think it's hard to say a per person dollar amount, as every person who takes the VRE for Amtrak is taking a car off the road.
Correct.
And there is a price for that as well, right? Like for the people who are just driving. So I think it's difficult to kind of just to quantify exactly what that per person price is.
And also, whether we like it or not, we're paying for the roads. They're not free.
Great.
Counselor, Earl.
Just real quick, I didn't know I could take a train from here to Roanoke. That's interesting. Do all of these Amtrak lines shown here go to Fredericksburg?
I don't think you can actually go from here to Roanoke. You've got to go from Alexandria to Roanoke, which means you've got to go up and then down.
That's right.
Cross
So some of these routes aren't using this track.
the Roanoke one does not use this track. It goes down the Norfolk Southern track.
Okay.
The Norfolk, Richmond, and Newport News ones all come through here.
Right.
That's good, okay.
Okay, thanks.
And this excludes the long distance trains that come through here as well. These are just the locally state supported. I didn't include those others that go to North Carolina.
Supervisor, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Getting back to VRE, I think part of the point is, and you're correct, it's very hard to quantify. I'm concerned though that our ridership is not back to where it was.
Same.
And yet the cost is even more than it was back then. So per person ridership in current dollars versus per person ridership in previous dollars it's more expensive for each of those riders. Taxpayer subsidizing.
Yeah.
And it's not increasing. And
Lot.
no offense, we're not, are we trying to find out why?
So there's a significant number of federal workers that have been fired. They're used
Well,
to
wait a minute,
trying-
wait a minute.
Took early retirement.
Some of them took early
Or
retirement.
whatever, sorry, I didn't mean. to
And
suggest that-
also,
yeah.
and also some of them, you know, some of them are not still on a 5 day a week thing, you know, there's still
Correct.
some of that. And, our on-time performance at times is not great. That's why you will see like Omni Ride is increasing because their performance is much better than VRE. So VREs, you know, if you're 80, what was it, like 84, 85%, I think some of it, it's, you know, that's
At
not,
PRTC
that's,
or Omni Ride.
Oh, yeah.
you know, that's, but then if you're on a bus, it's great, you know? So we see that going up.
And that's something that happened between 2019 and 2025, right? That's not captured in.
We have also added 3 additional OmniRide routes.
Yeah.
So
And the express lane.
nobody at any of these institutions will want to say this, so I'll be the bad guy and say it. I suspect that some of the VRE ridership has been shifted to OmniRide.
Yeah,
So you have to.
yes.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't blame them one bit. You want to get there on time and not be late. So it just seems like VRE is costing a lot more money and not performing as well, and there's less demand for it. But yet, are we, and I know it's northern counties that really control what happens. Are we going to stick with it just because it is an idea that we don't want to give up on? Or can we reform it? Like, when you said reverse commute, I've been hearing about that since I've been on board. And yet they won't, will they not do it? Because we keep hearing, oh, it's difficult. You run trains, send them to some of the other, you don't have them full. So what is the difficulty? That's what, and if they don't want to innovate and make it more appealing to use it, it's just gonna be a big waste of money that we could be using on other things.
I want to make sure, both Supervisor Mullins and Supervisor Young have their hands up. So I want to make sure.
Are you do you have a slide on OmniRide, or are we talking about it now?
I don't this month have a slide on
We talked
OmniRide.
about it last month. We had.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, my wife did that a couple times, and week before last, and she's a believer now. Just because it's rapid, right to the Pentagon, and then you get the free connection. Also, she's a convert on OmniRide.
VRE is going to have express trains, so they're gonna skip out the middle stations. So they're gonna pick up everybody in our region and then just skip all the Prince William and so on and go straight. It'll speed up the trip for some people. Some other people have their hands up. so-
Dr. Young, and then I saw Counselor
So,
Holmes.
how-
right there.
My earlier comment, that everything was just in my head and I didn't figure it out, but basically, I'm thinking, so we have VRE, we have Amtrak, and we have Omni Ride,
Yes,
and we are speculating and we have a lot of discussions of what we think it is. But the real analysis, I don't think has been done to figure out where we are today, regardless, we keep talking about COVID and we're back to work and now we have Doge. And so we have all these different reasons why it may be fluctuating, but we need to get to the bottom of it. If it's going to be something we're gonna continue with, or should we just nip it and decide we're going with buses, or let people use Amtrak and work some deal out with Amtrak and say, okay, you take out people, I mean, we put a lot of investment in here. We do round trip, make it better, so we could take Amtrak's off the, taking our individuals versus the way how we're going right now, we're like second fiddle. And to me, it needs to be improvement so that we can make money and not lose. So I would like to see some numbers, some real numbers, like what does it cost? And how much are we putting out subsidies? And how much are we making? What are we using? And is it beneficial for Stafford County taxpayers? I don't know about Plattsy and everyone else. And yes, I know people have to get to work, but we just need to know so that we could explain to our taxpayers at some point in time, yes, it's valuable,
just to be clear, FAMPO doesn't put any money into the operations of any of
Okay.
this. We only have put a small amount into the upgrade of the train station. That's physical infrastructure, but we don't pay for operations at FAMPO.
So I want to comment on Supervisor Yakubowski was saying about, and what you were saying, Dr. Young, about, we need to know the why, right? And I think OmniRide and Joe Stainsby is being very quiet. But I think, OmniRide can be more nimble and they can switch their routes, very quickly in ways that VRE cannot. And so, but they're also losing because when they bring people up, then they're like, they have an empty bus coming back
They don't.
they do though. They do. I'm on OmniRide and they have, it's a problem because
Talk about they have to come back.
they have to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
They have to, so.
But after 2 o'clock, they're.
But like when they bring people home to Spotsy, then they're driving back up to Prince William County with an empty bus. There's Joe. Hello, Joe.
I mean, I'm here. I mean, you guys have been saying such lovely things mostly. I mean, I just gonna sit back and let it happen. But I mean, absolutely. Janan is absolutely right. We are the beneficiary of of the FedEx lanes, of the hot lanes. VRE does play second fiddle to freight, and that does negatively impact their their on-time performance for sure. We are very proud of the on-time performance that we have. But certainly, deadhead is an issue. That's the issue that was just being discussed there, where you're driving 50 miles one way with essentially nobody on the vehicle. Fortunately, the fact that the Manassas facility has come online in the last few years has allowed us to, cut that a little bit, because all of the trips are not being dispatched from Woodbridge, which would be extremely problematic, especially because we have service out as far as Front Royal on the 66 corridor right now. But yes, I mean, I think that we've been the beneficiary of some changes in the hot lanes, and also we've worked very hard to have the on-time performance that we have. I think maybe with VRE there's some excellent kind of co-opetition going on there. But I think there's always going to be folks that it works very well for VRE or for OmniRide, and you know, we can certainly coexist.
I also wanted, I wasn't quite, thank you, Joe. I also wanted to kind of go back to what Chris was saying about if the numbers are up in OmniRide, and a lot of just a conversation, because I've also been saying we need to get more people in the seats in VRE to justify, but I also want to say that VRE is making they're doing a lot of construction, and they have a lot of capital projects in the works to make those trips go faster and to be more seamless. And so I always wonder, and I don't pretend to have all the answers to this, but I wonder, we don't want to like cut off our nose to spite our face. Like if we stop, supporting some of this now, then what happens if we wait? Then is it that much better? And if we don't do it, what happens then? So
one of the
Yeah,
things
sure,
that
I'll
has
then.
changed, you have to remember when you look at these numbers, that we've gone from one stop for OmniRide in the region at the beginning of the numbers we're comparing, to having added 3 additional routes with stops in Spotsylvania, in Fredericksburg, and in Stafford, which did not exist. And those are all with state subsidies as well, right? And we have added those. We've added those in the last year and a half. I can't remember the exact timeline that it started.
Yeah, that's
But
about right.
those, say again?
That's about right. You have the timeline correct.
Yeah. About a year and a half. So we added capacity with OmniRide, significant capacity, 4 times what we had. And they've worked, right? But that does mean it's going to take some riders away from VRE. There's a person that's going to pick.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Can we just get Supervisor Bomke and then Supervisor Mullins, and you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Kowalski, yeah.
So as Janet said, I've got to defend VRE because they have done a tremendous amount of work in trying to analyze and look at how can we bring riders back. You've probably noticed that there are now VRE signs not far from the station saying VRE this way. They never had signs before because they never had to market anything. So they have analyzed down to the last toothpick, how can we promote and market VRE better? Okay. Now, as Janet said, the game changer for VRE is the construction of the Long Bridge. That is the biggest problem right now. You go into Union Station, and let's face it, we don't own the tracks. CSX owns the tracks. And we are second, third, fourth fiddle to anybody else that's running on the tracks, freights, you name it. So we're just lucky we have, a train track if you look back since VRE has now been around, 35 years? I bet if you look back over the executive director's on-time performance report for the last 35 years, over every 12-month period, I bet the on-time performance was in a very small, it was about the same. We could regurgitate what Rich Dalton, the executive director, is going to say on-time performance is X. And 3 of those were due to congestion at Union Station. Yep. So until that Long Bridge is built, we are going to be adding the express lanes or express cars, as she said, and also doing more trains. So like if your wife wants to leave DC at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, boom, she's got an express train to get home. But until the congestion and the Long Bridge is built, there's no reason to put all these additional capital improvements in, because it's just going to be a backlog of everything. So
My understanding is that in the current budget, I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, BRE is going to put Saturday trains, which they've never had.
No.
No?
Looking at 2030.
2030.
2030.
We were all hoping for something that will be much sooner, but it is not. They have.
So the
now-
Saturday trains have said no.
Weekend travel will not happen until 2030.
That's because of the bridge and the track that has to be lit.
So we're.
So, and that goes back to, just real quick, I promise. Sorry.
Just trying
I
to.
can-
Yeah, but go ahead.
Oh, you,
But, you know-
little lady.
Yield to the judge.
Well, part of the reason they don't want to do the reverse and the Saturday is because until they can do it well and consistently, they don't want to like, well, let's start, but now you're gonna have to get off at Alexandria and take a bus from Alexandria to this place and then do, so they just don't want, they're looking at 2030. A lot of those things.
We had Supervisor Yakubowski and then Mr. Sainsbury.
Yeah, my only point is that with all these things, it's not an either or. And it's
Right.
not Omni versus VRE.
Right.
It's all that they need to find their niche. And what VRE's niche always was we were the commuter train and I've heard this for decades now. VRE, if we don't join VRE, oh my goodness, 95's gonna be back. We need to, everything is the fix to the problem that we have, and it never turns out that way. And as a taxpayer, you get kind of annoyed at that because all you ever hear is that, and then the numbers are out. And well, they're getting better. Don't worry, the numbers getting better, but we just keep pouring money. And then we hear, oh, it's gonna be 2030, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that. There's always an excuse. But yet, holy crap, what they do.
Yeah,
They do it
I hear you.
really well.
Yeah.
And VRE sitting there going, but, and then they keep raising, taking more money from us, from the gas tax. That's all I'm saying, is they need to get it in their head that they need to figure out what they are and stop trying to, stop with the excuses. That's all it is. It's just, it gets very frustrating because it could be a very well multi-pronged system that we have. Talk about weekend. I hate driving to DC. I don't do it anymore on the weekends at all, unless it's a really good concert. But at that point, I'll go to Springfield and take the metro.
Yep.
Just to make it easier. So it just needs to work well and it can be done and it's not an either or. And that was all I was saying. And I think we're just prolonging this so that you don't have one of your first meetings.
It's all to make me look bad. Fair enough. I want to make sure Mr. Stainsbury has had his virtual hand up for a moment and then Supervisor Mullins, and then I want to say something.
Thank you. I will be super quick. I just wanted to address what Councillor Holmes had said, a question potentially about Omni rides, ridership regarding pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. It's worth noting, of course, OmniRide has a very bifurcated service. We are fare free on our local bus service. We also operate at weekends now, which we didn't pre-pandemic. So writ large, our ridership overall is above pre-pandemic levels, but that's a lot to do with local bus service, right? Our commuter bus service, we are about 70 to 80% of pre-pandemic levels, even though we do have some overcrowding, but that's mostly because we run less service than we did before the pandemic. So our average occupancy rates, we can take 57 sitting on a bus, on the commuter buses. Our average occupancy rate is higher than before the pandemic, but we do in real terms move less people because we do have less service. And that's my comment.
Okay, Supervisor Mullins?
Yeah, real quick, I want to be fair that the bar that has to be met in our household is Basel, Switzerland. So trains there are on time and regular. So, but my wife's tickled to death that there's another option besides VRE and Amtrak at different times. That being said, educate me, who on our behalf is our legislator to like be the stick and say, you must do this by this timeline or else? Like we're hearing a lot of
DRPT.
but who's our guy that's going to say this entity right here, Spotsylvania, Fred, and Stafford, want you like get off the pot kind of thing by a certain time?
Representatives on
Well,
the
You mean state
committee.
level?
I just period. Like, is it us?
It's the people that sit on the board.
So is it us who we can
Yes.
say, hey, this is how we feel right now in
Yeah.
time, and we've been hearing it for 12 years. we want action by X time. I mean, is that possible or not?
Mr. Chair,
Voted.
I can answer your question.
Depends what action you want.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, let's,
Okay, that's what I'm.
Supervisor Hayes wants to answer the question, maybe Supervisor Bonte.
Drew,
Yeah.
what had happened, okay, is so there was money, there's ARPA money, CARES money, whatever, for some money, there's all these pots of money, right? That this happened, I think it was last year, right?
Yes.
And they wanted to not draw down that money in a faster way. So they wanted to put in an 8%, it was 8%. 8% jurisdictional subsidy increase, okay?
Okay.
Which I thought was too high,
But we were about it.
but oftentimes, you know, Spotsy has one seat, that's me. Stafford has 2 seats,
Sometimes.
Megan,
Now,
now only 1, and Fredericksburg has 1. So we get out,
9.
Voted by.
we get outvoted from
As well, yeah.
Northern Virginia constantly. So what the argument that I made was, you know, ridership is not, yeah, it's gone up, but you can see right there, it's not where it was. And we didn't even know, like, in 60, I think it's 60% of the riders are subsidized too. Okay, so if you wanna have a rate increase, then the people that you're getting a rate increase really are I mean, it could be the subsidies, but it really is your full pay riders. So the way that I think the MOU has been in the past, and Meg, since you've been on it the longest, you probably, correct me if I'm wrong, is 1 year it would be a rate increase, the next year it would be a subsidy increase, like that. It would be like that. I'm hoping this year we do not do another 8% increase. That would be ludicrous.
They were talking about the ridership.
And we need to, you know, so yes, I think it's all of us that sit on the VRE board are the ones that are gonna have to say, all right, enough with the excuses. We did free September riding one, free this, free that, trying to attract people. I don't think that attracts people. I think they take advantage of the service and they're not gonna become regular riders. They're going up there for events or whatever. So anyway.
You have good.
Supervisor Bonte.
so I think this whole issue is very complex. I think we have to remember at VRE, we are a stepchild, and Joe can, you know, attest to this, to PRTC. And then so anything that we do goes up to PRTC, whatever PRTC does goes up to NVTC. So we are a very small fish in this big pond, okay?
We are corn kernels.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I, you know, even the year that I was chair of VRE, and it's not that I'm proud of it, but I voted against the budget as the chair. I didn't like the budget. I was really struggling because I had a lot of constituents saying, we're putting all this money towards VRE and our ridership is very low. But as we're all saying, we have all these different options out there that are great. But I think that we need to really sit on DRPT. And I really do believe, Chris, for the first time, that the Long Bridge is the game changer. The Long Bridge will be. But what I would like to see of this planning organization, I would like to see how much money does the state put towards Amtrak ridership? Do they put any federal dollars in
I'm
it?
gonna ask the
And
number.
VRE, we know what we each put in from a jurisdictional standpoint, and they had not raised rates, although we're not talking about rates, for about 5 years with VRE. So we did go through a period where there were no rate increases, but that's a separate thing. I think that the taxpayers are deserving of knowing, you know, OmniRide, a new service. How much do we all as jurisdictions put in? I feel like the taxpayer, and I'd like to see it, right? I mean, I know what our VRE number is, but I don't know what our expenses are, because I think it's all part of the big picture, if you will.
So,
Chair will ask for those numbers.
Okay, we are gonna have to get those numbers.
can we just wrap it up? I don't know.
Supervisor Banush, do you want to add anything? And I would like to say something. I'm gonna keep my comments till the end.
My question was for though, like what he's gonna take on, what action. I just need to know what action.
I understand he's gonna go get the data and the cost data first.
I'm gonna ask for the subsidy value of the Amtrak routes that we are subsidizing. And I'm gonna ask, I just heard that you also want to know the OmniRide subsidies, so I'll ask for those two numbers. It's not two numbers, it's a range of numbers, but I'll get those numbers for you.
And then, so, but numbers is one thing. I was hoping that we could get the analysis on why, like the why of even though the numbers are kind of increasing, the ridership is increasing, these are the subsidies, why are we stuck? Kind of thing. So-
Why is the ridership not growing?
Well, it's growing, but not point where
I
we.
don't think they can.
What's the question?
Yeah, I don't know that there's
Okay,
a simple answer to that question. I think that's why we're arguing.
Okay, that's what.
We're not arguing, right? But
That's safe.
discuss it. Yeah.
I got healthy.
We could
Right.
ask VRE to do a presentation on what they think it is, but I,
No.
We
Get that in.
need to survey all the paper.
okay.
Let me just add, I think two important things to remember, to jump to my mind when looking at these numbers, right? Is that when we think about the value of VRE, that VRE is providing and that rail transit is providing, we always have to think of the counterfactual. What would our roads look like if those 200,000 to 300,000 extra commuters per month were on our
2.5 million a year. that go
right?
on
Yeah.
VRE.
So I mean, I think it's really easy to be blind to that value because it's hard to count the cars that aren't there. But we have to remember that
That needs to be in there then, because all I want is when they do ask me, like, we're paying, this is our tax
Mhm.
money, X, and I could say exactly that, so that.
is that something, Ian, that could be?
So
Yes.
I don't know if it's is
So
that
if
something
you-
to be modeled.
if you add up
It's
the
not working.
numbers, it's like over 2 million a year on
Okay.
VRE, and it's there's the number there, 1.45 million on Amtrak per year.
Yeah, so I think that we need to keep that counterfactual in mind. I imagine you could arrive at a number at how much worse the traffic would be absent the trains, although I don't know that it's worth staff. To my mind, that's not particularly worth staff time.
In most cases, it would be one person in a car because they're going to very specific locations.
So the other thing I want to just, for me, I think what we're doing here is also maintaining this investment for the future, right? Particularly when you think about the Long Bridge and things like that, right? Trains have real downsides, right? They go on one track and only go to fixed spots, but they are like orders of magnitude more efficient at moving people even than buses are, right? So if we're a region that's going to continue to grow and we're going to have more and more people moving between here and DC, right? The only way we're going to get significant capacity increases to move human bodies from one place to another efficiently is trains are just an order of magnitude more efficient than buses, right? So even if we're not seeing the numbers now, I think I would not want to see us walk away from VRE or Amtrak, right? I think that this is a down payment on future, right? For me, right? Because I just think that the trains just people more efficiently at the end of the day, right? Even if they have downsides.
The express trains will likely help too because they're going to move you faster.
Yeah. Okay. Have we
Yes.
Next slide.
I would just like to say that pride cometh before the fall here. So
This is just a fun slide. I was just trying to shame Amtrak a little bit because they stole VRE's footstool. So you can just see there, I was riding those two trains and I actually saw that. So I let them know at VRE, by the way, you should call Amtrak and get your equipment back.
Oh.
Anyway, next slide.
Get it?
quickly.
It's like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to point this out to you. I've tried to fix stuff at the FAMPO train stations. And one of the things I did get fixed, thank God, is that we now have accurate information on the screens at the train station. We were getting ghost trains that were up on the screen that never arrived. We were getting the train 138 was never on the screen. We had people that were arriving at this, these are Amtrak trains. We had people arriving at the station on the wrong platform because the screen says you just wait on platform 2 and the train's on platform 3.
Always have.
So I've spent, and I've never told you this, but I've spent 6 months working with the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, working directly with Amtrak, working with VRE, and the software was all screwed up and they fixed it. We got rid of the ghost trains. They're not there anymore. The trains that actually are there are actually on the screen.
Those trains and those numbers you just showed us
No.
a slide ago.
And I must tell you, on our behalf, the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, a feather in their cap, they've opened their own control center in Richmond at the Staples Mill station. They have one person there 24 hours a day, so it's shifts, and they check all of those train assignments, which platform they're on. They do audible announcements now at the station. It's been a remarkable improvement from 6 months ago. 6 months ago, people were running with their suitcases under the station to get to the other side. It was a mess. We fixed that. But there's one little thing we haven't fixed. And I'm being a bit naughty now. I've tried to get people to listen, but they don't want to listen. So what do you see on that photograph? If you were standing on those platforms, if you look at the platform on the right versus the platform on the left, there's a big difference, but it's in the distance. Can you see what it is?
The prominence of the screens.
Yes, on the left
Yeah.
platform. Can you even see a screen?
It's like it disconnects.
Let me tell you why. Next slide. Look at that.
Facing the wrong way.
It only faces north. So on the side, on platform 2, which is the one closest to where we're sitting now, the screens face north and south. On the platform closest to the city center, all of the screens only face north. So we extended that platform down by several hundred feet. Remember the new opening of all the new platforms? That platform that's new with all that new concrete and lighting or whatever, you don't know when your train's coming, you don't know what the train number is, you don't know what time, you don't know anything because you can't see the screen. So unless we put up a screen there that faces south, those platforms are almost pretty useless, right? So I'm begging the people who sit on the VRE board, can you just talk to them? I've tried. Can you just say, seriously, it won't cost more than $500 or $1,000 for a screen, right? The system is all there. You don't need a whole new system. You just need the TV screen, put it up there, and the people on the south side of that platform will then know when their train is arriving.
Costco.
It's the last little. Seriously, you can get a real cheap one and just put it up there, but it's not a big ask. But if you could just raise it, it could fix that
We have a
station.
meeting on Friday, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Us are there.
We fixed
Yeah.
so many things already, and my thanks to VRE and to Amtrak, and especially to the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. We fixed the messages. They're correct now, and I write it regularly, and I'm telling you they're now correct. People now get the correct information, but it took some work. And if we can just get those south-facing screens, we're done. Then we actually have good service to the public. Next.
So if a Costco TV shows up on that platform in a couple of weeks, we all know who did it. But we're not going to say, we're sworn to silence, right? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So you'll remember we showed you last month the the University of Virginia's numbers. So they've released some new projections, and I want to show you those. You remember this slide? You've seen it before.
Spaghetti slide.
Washington Regional Commission, with that blue line right above all the others. We're growing faster than anybody else. Well, that's not going to change. However, they have just published new projections for 2050. So we are allowed in our model, according to according to VDOT and OIP standards, to be 10% above the Well and Cooper Center's projections. So in those two red boxes, you can compare what we just updated in the model. You remember we had to reduce our numbers. So we just reduced our numbers. We updated it in the model. They now last weekish or 10 days ago published new numbers. They've dropped our numbers again. So if you look in the final box compared to the other red box, the two red boxes side by side, you can see the impact. They've reduced Fredericksburg from 38,000 plus the 10% equals 43 to 36,000 plus the 10% equals 40. And likewise for Spotsylvania and likewise for Stafford. So we've gone down again. Now, we're not planning to change the model right now because we're in the middle of the pipeline studies for the smart scale round of funding. So we're going to leave it alone, I hope. But just it's likely that in the future, we're going to have to adjust down again. So if Spotsylvania wants to contest it, because they're the biggest sort of in quotation marks, they're the biggest losers in terms of projected population growth. Then we'll need to put a case together as to why we think these numbers are not accurate. But in the case of Spotsy, it's quite big. In the others, it's less so. But if you look there, You know, we've gone from, 246,000 population in 2050 to 200,000 ultimately. Am I right, John? Why does that look? Yeah, anyway, it's a big drop.
I hope that happens, actually.
I mean, I know, but I'm just saying, like, you may then end up building a transportation system that is too small for Spotsylvania.
Too large.
No, if you
Yeah,
base
you're
it,
not-
so if you base it on the lower numbers, you're gonna build a transportation
see.
system
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
too
yeah.
small.
Okay.
If you believe that more people are gonna move into Spotsylvania.
Now, remind us, has Weldon Cooper historically overshot or undershot our actual?
I'm gonna pass this one to John because he's the expert on that question.
It varies a lot. Traditionally for this region, they've undersold us.
Okay, so we've grown faster than they project.
We've grown faster. That being said, a lot of their projections previously have also been way overly aggressive for the state as a whole, and they traditionally tried to find projections that work well for all the jurisdiction, and so therefore outliers, either for us being a faster growing or say far Southwest Virginia, which is contracted, they haven't been as accurate, but they tend to be accurate as the
In the middle.
So it's more of a bell curve issue with their projections, but even then, they're fairly accurate, but we tend to beat their projections.
And one more follow-up question, if I may. Did they lay out why they lowered the numbers when they released this new? prediction?
Yes, they think Virginia as a whole is losing population in the future. And so because of that, they have to reduce everybody's. So they haven't just reduced ours, they've just reduced everybody's in the state because they think Virginia as a state is gonna.
It's not based on any data, it's just a reduction.
Well, it's a guess, right? I mean,
Yes.
It's a projection.
All right, so Counselor Holmes, then Counselor Gurlock.
So could you go back to, yes, please. So when it says 2025 and it says Fredericksburg,
That's the date that they published the numbers. not-
okay,
That's their guess for 2050, made in 2025.
thank you.
Okay.
Because yeah, okay.
It's their
They're
guess
saying-
25 for 2050.
They're saying now that Fredericksburg will be 36,891 in 2050.
Yes,
And then when we add the 10%, that's when we're getting to, okay,
Correct.
thank you. Yep,
Counselor Gurlock and then Supervisor Young.
thank you.
it's conservative.
Yeah, I remember when we did, we built a new school in the city. We used Weldon Cooper's numbers. And as I recall, they based their predictions on birth rates versus morbidity
Correct.
and not placing much analysis on people coming to the region from outside
Right.
the region. So I'm wondering what the methodology is.
They do look at the movement of population, and they also do look at things like building permits. So they have a range of data that they use.
Okay.
But again, it's a projection. So you have to take an opinion on what's going on, and then you project based on your opinion of what's going on. So they believe that the Virginia population is slowing and might even go backwards. The birth rate and the death rate are causing us to have reducing population numbers in the future. And they don't think that the influx of people to Virginia from outside the state is going to be as high as they thought 10 years ago. So it's slowing, everything's slowing in their view. And it's not a projection directly of an individual jurisdiction in our region that so much leads the projections. It's the state. What's happening with the state? If it's all going down, then they all have to go down, then we have to go down as well. That's kind of how they do their projections.
We are one of the fastest growing regions in the state.
We will still remain the fastest growing region, but at a slower rate because everybody's slowing down according to Weldon Cooper.
Supervisor Young.
Yeah, I'm going back to the slowness because, we do have, Lionel, he's for the school system. He's a very good projector and within, 1%, he's always been accurate, even when I was on the school board. And, we are getting a lot of individuals from Fairfax and Prince William moving, to Stafford, in addition to our 100% disabled vets. And I'm wondering how do we account for that, knowing that our numbers may be off?
So Weldon Cooper has historically been conservative, especially in recent years. They've taken a very conservative approach. In other words, they think that the growth is going to be slower than what we think. And we are dealing with the fallout of that. So we agreed to reduce our numbers in the travel model. And remember, the reason that this is important is because when you put in an application for a smart scale project based on a study that is based on the predicted numbers in the future, then the predicted numbers in the future matter, because then your model shows you different outputs, and then people look at your request for funding for a project in smart scale, and they look at the projections of various numbers in the model. We've got VDOT there who can explain that better than I can. But the point is, it does matter, because if your population isn't going to grow, they're not going to give you money for all the roads, basically. There's a much more complicated answer to that, but I'm kind of
Saying without going along with it, we should have shadow numbers that say, we know that Weldon Cooper is X, but based on our analysis, this is what we're moving from. Because we still need that
correct.
additional.
If we want to argue with the state, we have to produce data that shows that Weldon Cooper might have underestimated. And Weldon Cooper has said to us publicly that if we can produce numbers that are based on actual data that show that we're ahead of the projections and the data that they've been using, they're prepared to write a letter to OIP and BDOT to say that they may have undercounted our region. But it's got to be a lot of research, which means that the counties and the city would have to ask their staff to give us data or to produce data based on, building permits or people moving into the region or numbers of school kids, or some data that we can use to show that we're doing faster growth than what they're predicting.
Counselor Holmes, you had your.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, we can move on.
Next slide. We've been arguing for a while for a shared use path on the US 1 bridge. That's the US 1 bridge.
Is that you, Supervisor?
I got leader there sitting behind you, and Eugene, who's next to leader over there, to go out early one morning. They had to get up real early, and they went and hid in the bushes and took photos of people. And so we took photographs of people in the morning.
That?
There they are, right? And we've got quite a bunch of photos. I'm just bringing you a few. Those people are cycling in the traffic across the US 1 bridge in the morning, every morning, to get places. Now, I don't know if they're going to the university or if they're going to jobs in Central Park or where they're going, but they are not cycling all the way to Chatham to get on the Chatham Bridge. They are riding in the traffic on the US 1 bridge right now, today. And this is in your pack if you look at your email. And then the next slide is even worse. Can you see what's happening here?
Maybe?
The verse,
No.
They are all on the sidewalk. Now, you know how narrow that sidewalk is. Some people feel afraid to even walk on the sidewalk on that bridge because it's so narrow. You've got people every morning, cycling on the sidewalk because they're afraid of cycling in the mixed traffic on US 1.
Yeah, true.
So we don't want to embarrass anybody, but we just want to show you, that this is the situation today. This is not imagined. This is not AI. This is just
We don't
photographs.
know it, we've traveled that.
Yeah. So this,
I'd like to point out there's a kid sitting down one of those. photos, too.
I would just
That's
say,
scary.
we're not building a shed. If we get it right one day, and we hope and pray we do, we're not building a shared use path that is a waste of time. People are doing this right now. So it's a important project. It's not a waste of time fighting for something to be done. And we know it's going to cost money and all that.
I'm glad Mr. Henyon is here to see these pictures. Yes.
He'll probably kick me under the table later.
So we had our VDOT quarterly report by wonderful Kyle Bates last week. Was it? No, 2 weeks ago. We have a meeting tomorrow. And he did inform us that we will be getting a dedicated shared use path on the bridge He didn't say to the north at that point in time, but I called him later and asked specifics because a number of us in this room, I won't name names, have been advocating with VDOT to make that happen because our constituents want it. And I have walked and also run across this bridge and it is really scary.
Meg, are they gonna increase the height of the railing?
We didn't get that far.
Okay.
All I wanted was a shared use path. And originally, the cantilevers were not strong enough and wide enough to hold, they could do maybe 6 feet, but the shared use path is 10 feet. Is that correct, Greg?
No, it's 12.
Is it 12? 12?
What's here between the rails for standard shift is path, Chatham is 10 foot 8. Chatham's a little below standard.
Oh, so Chatham is a hair below, so it'll be bigger than Chatham.
There's non-standard, but that takes the whole process, right?
Okay, anyway, I just wanted everybody here, if you haven't had your VDOT report, and Sarah, Greg, that was public information, so I think that was fair to share.
Right, exciting.
It's
Cool.
very exciting.
Okay,
Good.
next slide.
More to share with us? No? Okay.
Okay, just last slide. We are working on getting the final report on the river crossing to yourselves and to the TAC. We will send it to VDOT first for a review and drawing and a cost estimate. It's a more detailed cost estimate, so not going to be exactly the same price we saw last time. We're doing further work on the crash data. Becky is going to show you that crash data today, but we're going to do some more work on it. Virginia Governor's Transportation Conference is in October. FAMPO staff are not going this year, but just letting you know that that's when it is. You might wish to attend yourselves. We've begun finally this very beginning of the preparation work for the new 2055 long range transportation plan update. We've got a long time to be able to do it, so there's no rush, but we've started planning, at least planning for how we're going to do it. And just to let you know that the call for CMAQ, STBG, and CR funding has been put out at the September TAC meeting as per the policy which you're going to approve today, we hope. So we have alerted your localities, they all know. So applications for CMAQ, STGB, and CR will need to be submitted by November if it's a transit request, and by December the 15th if it's a roadway or bike ped request. So just letting you know where we are in the process. Chair, I'm done.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hollis. Let's move on now to item 9, around the action and discussion items. Move on to item 9A, the CTAC outreach for policy committee input. I'm going to recognize Ms. Hipsky, the CTAC chair.
Hi, how y'all doing? First of all, I'd like to start off by saying I did see Lita and Eugenia taking pictures on Route 1. Thursday morning, I think it was on the south side of the bridge. Wow. Yeah, so.
It's not in the bushes.
Not in the bushes.
The bush wasn't big enough clearly.
But anyways, thank you for inviting me here. You may remember I came here a few months ago with Alan. We were talking about the river crossing, third crossing a few months back. Since then, I've become chair, and we have been, we were I thought that meeting was really successful, and actually for us. It was very successful. Our chair at the time, Tim, led the group through a very good discussion. We came up with a recommendation. We forwarded it to you guys. You guys adopted it or approved it, and it's now being adopted by the alignment. It's being adopted by both Stafford and Fredericksburg. I think Stafford has already gone through, and we're waiting for Fredericksburg to finalize it. That was an accomplishment for us and as well as for you. But what we want to do is now, we're now ready to close that book and we're ready to move forward on the next item or what our next mission. So what we have been doing for the past 2 months, I took on the chair with July 1. So the past 2 months, we've been looking at our bylaws, and we've been looking at this group's bylaws and just trying to see what we can do. It seemed from the bylaws, the way I summarized in a very simple way is Our purpose is we feed up to you, to this committee, and we feed out to the citizens. The purpose that we're supposed to do, now I'll just read it straight from him. Is, the purpose of CTAC is shall be to provide citizen input to the policy committee and to disseminate information on FAMPO projects, programs, policies to the residents of the region. So again, we feed up and we feed out. We thought of several different areas that we can take on, for our next focus and our next priority. And before we move on, we've had 2 good meetings on this. Before we move on, I wanted to get a chance to, talk to you guys to see if you have any thoughts of our next steps of what areas that we should go into, and maybe make a, move forward in that direction. And just some of the things that we talked about, just let me get my notes out here. I'm doing this very high level here. We talked about, connectivity. We talked about the, a lot of connectivity, transits, bike trails, VRE. We also talked about, the urban development areas, the UDAs, and that obviously that's in the localities, purview to adopt and modify and, plan them as needed. But we talked about connecting them regionally. We also talked about, as Ian just mentioned, the upcoming long-range plan that's coming up and seeing what we can do, getting information from the community to feed the policy committee and what areas we need to look at. Alan, having an, we talked about, bus routes, those were our main areas that we talked about, and education. One of the things that right before probably that was June, I did a presentation on healthcare transportation. And the reason why I did that is I managed a grant funded, nonprofit group, healthcare transportation program, through, in Southern Maryland. And I know that there's a need for it, but we also looked at some specialized needs like that, especially in the rural counties that we have to bring them in here. Because as you know, if you want your urban areas, your transit to work well, you need to consolidate the growth into the growth areas and make sure the rural areas are protected, but make sure we have connections to them. I'm going to ask Alan, our vice chair, is there anything else that I missed?
One of the things that we've done, I guess, in the past a little bit was when we are being aware of certain information, basically through our own maybe resource material or research, we've tried to bring that information to this body so that you would be aware, because there's been a lack of information sometimes going back and forth. I've often been to a number of for example, meetings of the supervisors, and there's just information that comes from the public, from planning and zoning and transportation. There's not always a lot of communication that we've noticed between transportation and planning and zoning. And that certainly becomes incumbent upon us to be aware of what's going on as it affects transportation.
Okay, Supervisor Hayes, you had a
Yeah.
question you wanted?
So I was just
No.
gonna say, when we, when I handed the baton over to you, we kind of talked about doing some of these connectivity issues, roadway connectivity. I know Chris is big on this too, is to try and get a better idea of how we can do, the river crossing is a huge project, but not to say that road projects aren't huge, but you guys could put input on that. I know Tim is a wealth of knowledge for Spotsylvania, and he sits on that and really dig into that. That would be what I would love to see. And we talked about that too, right? Ian doing more of the connectivity things on how we can, some of these roads that kind of end, how can we get that going? I'd love for you guys to work on that if you're looking for any input.
So we're looking at connectivity within the road system.
Yes, in the road system, yeah.
Yeah. And I would add bike ped to that.
Yeah.
You knew I would. Supervisor Bunky, and
So I guess
Professor Young.
I'm thinking more high level. When you brought up the bylaws, when I think bylaws, that means you operate a certain way and you have certain restrictions and the latitude to do other things. So I would suggest maybe you and Alan get together with Chair Will and maybe somebody else that he recommends that's on the executive committee, and maybe go back and look at, because you were both intricately involved in the whole river crossing. Because I don't like the fact that our transportation and planning and zoning is not linked together, because it certainly should be. And so maybe you all could figure out a way forward. Maybe it has to do with the bylaws. I don't know, but I think there's gotta be a fix there, and Ian can probably weigh in on that as well. And information from his staff that he can bring to the table. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. Planning and zoning tend to be the local counties. So
Correct.
that's maybe where it starts breaking down, because we're not county here.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's probably where it started. So if I'm hearing correctly, build a better bridge between the county's planning and zoning and our regional transportation connections.
Perhaps, and maybe you need to meet with each individual, the city manager or the county administrator, to figure out how that can be done. If you feel there are things that have fallen through the cracks.
Other people want to jump in with items for suggestions or items for discussion for Shipsky.
So,
Oh, yeah, sorry, yes, you had your hand, sorry, thank you.
when Supervisor Hayes talked about connectivity, that is also to me local, because you just have to look at within, Spotsylvania or within Fredericksburg or within Stafford and Stafford, for example, you have urban, you have agriculture, you have farmland, so one of the only areas connectivity would come in is the northern part, which is where, Whitewater and Garrisonville connect, where Embry, all of that is something I've been working on. I'm very passionate about connectivity in terms of bike routes, and developers back in the day, all they did was build, and supervisors probably didn't think about connectivity, because that was a different way how they were building homes and cul-de-sac and don't come around here if you don't live here kind of thing. And I'm more about connecting these different districts together, and some of them don't have sidewalks, and VDOT's been trying to help with that, because accidents, kids are getting hit on bikes and there are no sidewalks. Eustis is a big through secondary road, shouldn't even be called secondary. Because Mine Road, Eustis, Shelton are the only roads that Stafford County, North Stafford has that go north to south. And east to west would be Garrison and 17. So that's the grid.
Right.
And within there's nothing, just cul-de-sacs, and Embry is one of the only ones. And Park Ridge to a certain extent, that have connectivity, and so I'm just working on Embry and Austin, Embry and Autumn right now. Austin can't walk, I think I saw one of the letters up there, I think it was Austin, right? Yeah. But I'm interested in that too, but I don't know how you link all of the counties with the connectivity and funding.
We always did.
Yes, could you guys solve that for us, please? Funding, solve that for us, please. Yeah, no, sorry.
Take care of it. Okay, so, connectivities with sidewalks, in the grid system, actually, that came up when we were looking at the the river crossing, because, of the Route 17, and making sure that the grid system
Yeah.
remain.
Yeah.
It's more undulating in the rural areas, but.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize that connecting neighborhoods is also healthy. Simply because not only you will see Wilmore, on his bike in our neighborhoods. But just also, neighborhoods and schools, you're taking people off the road because transportation costs will reduce. You have neighborhood schools, parents and kids can walk to school, happy parents, happy kids, and they leave us alone, right? But that's very important when you connect the health
Yes.
and the fact of the connectivity, because sometimes it doesn't click, right?
Yeah, I think that's like, they're calling it now active transportation planning.
Oh, yeah, nice.
John, so I think that's the right term, but it's
Active transportation, yeah.
active transportation planning, and it's just that. On the bikes, walk, to do the last mile, the last mile.
Counselor Holmes.
So I didn't know, like we're on Healthy Generations, agency and aging together and then as far as like the community health assessment and intervention plan, one of the big issues that continues to come up and also at CPMC with like PSS, is transport medical, to medical appointments. And that's a huge deficit in the area. And I don't know what you all would do about that, other than perhaps find out exactly what the needs are. But it is, this transportation issue continues to come up across the area. So I just want to put that out there as far as.
You voted tonight to adopt funding, $250,000 to buy new buses for the RACSB, I think. So we are involved to a little extent.
Like, right, I know, right, so, anyway, it just seemed like an issue, a transportation issue that continues to come up across all kinds of different agencies and.
Raised. It does.
Yes.
I just thought of something that, I don't know if it's something we probably would typically think about, but CTEC could look at. We have an issue with our rural roads and connectivity out there, and I'm sure Stafford does to some extent, and the other localities. Could we push something like that? I think you'd get a lot of interest from the other localities on how we can attack our rural road problems.
Say it again.
Rural road.
I was just gonna tag on to what Shannon said about the transport. I think, unless I'm misunderstanding what your goal is, but I think the first element in that is knowing the need, but then also knowing what agencies do what out there, because there's a lot of agents that do different things. They may do the same thing, but it may be different in the population that they serve.
Right.
So I think if this was something that was near and dear to y'all's heart that you really wanted to take on, I mean, I would we'll see metrics of what services are out there, who's doing the services, what population do they serve, and where the gap is.
And where the still, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, can we not overlap with work though, because that's something that WRC and that house.
That's what I'm saying. We
So-
need to have there
so
needs to be a metrics of what. Who
So
does
that's
what?
what we're working on that committee, so I didn't want double people working on the same thing, so.
Right.
Except that's housing and this is
I
transportation.
understand, but we also work on transportation because of the issue, like in terms of, all those different health, agencies that are working, yes, there's a transportation. But the list is there, when you mention all those different agencies, we look at those. Not the transportation, piece necessarily, but the agencies themselves, they need transportation, but I'm saying that we have that list. If you need that, so you don't have to rework that piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, that soapbox is something I keep in my back pocket about healthcare transportation, because I said, I spent 4 years running a nonprofit.
And feel free to come to the housing, committee meeting, because I think it would be helpful.
And the impact of healthcare transportation, it's on the healthcare system it's incredible. 1 out of 5 appointments missed, is because of transportation.
That's what we talk about, access to healthcare.
Yeah, because people can't get there.
Yes, so feel free to come.
I talked to in Southern Maryland, assistant fire EMT chiefs, and they told me that 70% of their rides easily are non-emergency medical transportation. Somebody went to the doctor, they have to do a follow-up care, they can't get to the follow-up care, so they call the emergency, the ambulance. That's not
Yes.
that's not cheap. So, no, I was running a nonprofit program for years. That's I said, this might be awesome, get off of it. Okay. So I apologize for that. But I'd be happy to, talk to you about that later on.
I would say the only, the themes of connectivity are very important to me too, right? And particularly for opportunities to connect jurisdictions to each other. I think that's the real power of the bridge crossing idea. And I'd like to see more ways we can connect our jurisdictions together better. The other thing I want to say is I want to make sure that we don't lose track of information flow going the other direction, right? For me, one of the real valuable things about CTAC is that you guys are our eyes and ears on the ground out in the community, right? And that there's opportunities for you to funnel us information about, what are transportation issues out there on the ground that folks are experiencing. So, I don't want this to be us dictating down to you, and I don't think the information flow should be that way exclusively at all. I think it's very much, I would love to have you guys back on a regular basis, right? To the extent that you have your ears to the ground out there. We have lots of ways to get that information, but you are a really important one of those. So I just want to make sure we don't lose track of that
So we
aspect.
spent 2 meetings talking about this, and connectivity, bike trails, pedestrian access, and improving pedestrian access, was one of the highest points.
One of the things that Ian had put out as stuck in my head is I-95 has become a barrier to people who need to go east and west. Because of the fact that essentially there are not that many crossings that go past I-95. So people normally, they have to either do 2 months amount of driving to go north or south to get to a place. So I started to put together information about that a little bit, and these are the kinds of things that, that we get information from all different sources. We also talked briefly about trying to put together surveys, community, and how to communicate with them so that they would get input from them, and then again feed it forward.
Supervisor Young, yeah.
And so the bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee, have y'all met with them already?
I've been to one of their meetings here, but no, we need to still start going to them.
I just think based on what, I'm just hearing, Chair McIntosh say that also you are our eyes and ears, so instead of taking this from us to bring us, work with them also to see what it is that they're doing, because I need to figure out who I even appointed there.
You're right, it's all connected, and it's how you get to the station. Okay.
All right. Shall we move on? Item 9. Thank you, Ms. Watkins. I appreciate you guys taking the time to be with us tonight. Thank you. Item 9B, the I-95 southbound crashes highest rate crash segment FAMPO staff analysis. Ms. Golden.
This presentation is a follow-up to our August 2024 analysis of the I-95 high crash rate, both northbound and southbound between Warrenton Road and Dale City. We'll show you the northbound and southbound crash rates from that presentation in a few slides. The highest crash rate segment in the FAMPO region is southbound between Warrenton Road and Plank Road. The direction given to staff in August was to investigate trends of cause, extend the analysis past the Spotsylvania interchange, and to determine the safety impact of the new through lanes. Next slide. Crash rates are computed using number of crashes, traffic volume, and length to determine the relative safety of a roadway segment when compared to similar segments. Next slide. The orange line on the crash rate comparison for northbound I-95 shows the highest crash rate, and it's outside the FAMPO region between Dumfries and Dale City. Notice the drop in all segment crash rates in 2020. This corresponds with the COVID epidemic. Next slide. The highest southbound crash rate is boxed in red and is between Warrenton Road and Plank Road. Again, notice the drop in crash rate for all segments in 2020 for the COVID epidemic. Next slide. As requested by the policy committee, our study area for tonight's analysis goes between Warrenton Road and mile marker 125, that is 1 mile south of exit 126. Comparison of average crash here for an equivalent time period shows a 35% after the new lane in all crashes. Next slide. Average crashes by severity types are increasing, with exception of fatal crashes that continue to trend at about 1 fatality per year. The high severity type, both before and after the lanes, is property damage only, with a 34% increase after the new lanes. Next slide. Percent of total crashes by the top 4 collision types have all increased. Notice the high rear-end collision types for the study period, both before and after the new lanes. In a rear-end collision, drivers and passengers can suffer a range of physical injuries, including whiplash, back injuries, bones, traumatic brain injuries. The rest of this analysis focuses on rear-end collision types, their potential cause and locations, to help decision makers with solutions, both short-term and long-term. Next slide. Graphing rear-end collisions by month before the new lanes shows a decrease prior to opening of the new lanes between Warrenton Road and Plank Road. Since the new lanes were opened, rear-end collisions by month have increased. Next slide. Crash descriptions and crash diagrams provided by VDOT allowed staff to identify crashes caused by traffic backups. In this crash description, the law enforcement officer identified the cause as due to traffic backup. V3 was stopped in the left lane due to traffic, and so on. We identified crashes like this one as due to traffic slowdown on police report. Next slide. We identified rear-end collisions involving 3 or more vehicles as suspected due to traffic slowdown, like this example. Next slide. Both categories of rear-end collisions have increased after the new lanes. Those identified on police reports added to those involving 3 or more vehicles, and those involving 2 vehicles. Next slide. In looking at all crashes for an equivalent time period, before and after the new lanes, the afternoon time of day between 12 o'clock p.m. and 6 p.m. experienced the highest total crashes. When we examined the crashes due to traffic slowdown by hour and by weekend versus weekday, we find that the weekday hours between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. is a predictable trend, providing opportunities to warn motorists through signage and media campaigns. Next slide. Let's turn to traffic volumes. The new through lanes greatly reduced traffic volumes on the local lanes. Recall that the new through lanes opened November 1st, 2021. The green line is the total average annual daily traffic, AA, of the local lanes added to the traffic of the new through lanes and is trending upward. Accurate traffic volumes are publicly available through 2023. Note the even split of traffic between the orange bar for the new lane AADT and the blue bar, the local lanes in 2023. Great. There's about an even split between the new lanes and the local lanes after traffic volume. Next slide. The combined lanes south of Plank Road are shown on this slide and are also trending upward. The drop in 2020 due to the COVID epidemic. Next slide. The difference between the traffic volume of the local lanes added to the new through lanes between Warrenton Road and Plank Road compared to the annual traffic between Plank Road and X6 are compared on this slide. A significant number of vehicles exit at Plank Road. Next slide.
Just back one. That is the number of vehicles that are getting off at Plank Road.
And actually, it's even more dramatic. The difference in traffic, there are also people getting on at Plank Road going southbound. So this difference, there are even more getting off at Plank Road, if you will, than this number reflects. So it's a significant part of our concern with this as being a hotspot.
Because this is, I'm sorry, because that number is the number getting off minus the number that are getting on.
Yes,
Yes.
the net.
Understood.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So a lot of traffic gets off at Route 3.
The new through lanes have reduced crashes on the local lanes. The crashes in the combined lane between Plank Road and exit 126, shown by the green line and boxed in red, are trending upward. Next slide. Recall that the crash rate considers the number of crashes, segment length, and average annual daily traffic. When comparing the crash rate of the three segments, the new through lanes have reduced the crash rate of the lanes. Crash rate of the combined lanes between Plank Road and exit 126 is trending upward with a value of 70 in 2023, even though the traffic volume is less than the pre-COVID value. Next slide. This slide shows crash density of the local lanes and new through lanes for the period of detailed crash data provided by VDOT. Considering the large volume of traffic exiting at Plank Road and other factors in this analysis, one hotspot for southbound I-95 in the study area is at the Plank Road interchange. Next slide.
Quick question,
Go ahead.
is that, so that's over a 3-year period that is it?
This is for the period from the opening of the new through lane through December 31st, 2024, which are the months of crashes where we asked for the detailed crash descriptions that allowed us to separate crashes between the new through lanes and local lanes. The publicly facing crash data provides the latitude and longitude of crashes, but all within the new through lanes. So we worked VDOT for a smaller data set to help us determine the correct or accurate lat long to get this data.
But that's not an annualized data, that's the actual quantity over that 3-year period.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a pretty small period, and this is crashes by quarter mile marker. So it's these are relative to each other over a fairly small period of time, 3 years compared to the publicly available.
That's so that's crashes per quarter mile segment. 3+ year period.
Yes,
The distance between each of those dots is a quarter mile.
Hmm.
And so the red or the yellow or the orange section is just for that quarter mile section. So some there you can see in yellow, which is a lower number of crashes. So that little segment had a lower number. What's interesting at Route 3 is that some crashes are happening in the center lane, in the through lanes, which is hard to understand, right? Why are people crashing into each other in the through lane? And it might be rubbernecking. There's a crash in the local lane, and then everybody's looking over to see the crash, and then they drive into the person in front of them, or they're texting on their phone or whatever.
next slide. This is a larger data set. This is the publicly facing information that we have from combined lanes from Plank Road to 126. This takes us through from the opening of the new through lanes through April 30, 2025. That's the publicly facing data. In this section of combined lanes, the lat lawn is all, we don't have a difference of lane. We have larger density ranges in the color code, predictably red approaching exit 126.
Traffic is merged by this stage. There's no local and through lanes, it's just one lane. 12 one set of lanes.
And so this second hotspot is identified at exit 126 with significant crashes identified as due to traffic slowdown. VDOT recently completed improvements to southbound US Route 1, US Route 17 that anecdotally have reduced the backup during PM peak traffic periods onto the interstate main line. And that leads to a future analysis that we'll undertake to take a look at that. Next slide. These are our key findings. The last slide is just next steps. I don't know, Mr. Allis, if you maybe go through these or.
Sure. So it's those first 2 points, they are significant. There are no crashes in the center lane or left lane of I-95 around exit 126. 0 crashes, right? So if you're in the left lane or the center lane, no crashes are happening. They're all happening in the right-hand lane, which seems to indicate that there's something to do with the off-ramp. The second point, there are no crashes at the merge. Do you remember we were predicting, people were panicking that when this is finished, where they merge, it's going to be a mess. Well, there's 0 crashes at the merge, so there's no mess at the merge that we know of based on crashes. There may be inconveniences and other things. Yes, but there aren't actually any crashes, so people are coping the merge. What we think is going on is that they're not coping with the backups. On the days when there's a backup and the off-ramp is clogged, they're not watching where they're going and they drive into the car in front of them. That's what we think is happening. But Becky's last point is very important, and somebody pointed us to this in the TAC. We don't yet have the crash data from after VDOT opened the new intersection work that was done at exit 126. So we don't want to start predicting that just yet. We first want to get the new crash data that happened after they opened that, because it seems as though the traffic is flowing a little easier now. So we may have partially solved the 126 problem, but we don't want to make any predictions because without the data, we're just guessing. So we don't want to say anything about that yet. But it does look like, apart from what I've just said, that there are these 2 crash zones. The one is they're both southbound, northbound, much less crashes in our area. The crashes are all southbound, really. The volume of crashes is southbound. And it's people approaching exit 130, which is Route 3, and people approaching exit 126, which is in Spotsylvania. In your vicinity, the crashes are outside of our region in the that stretch. So just north. Yes. So north of you, the northbound side of the road is having crashes. South of you, the crashes are in the city and in Spotsylvania. Stafford's southbound is a little better. However, there's also something going on with the speed, because the speed has improved from exit 117, exit 117 through to exit 126 because of the new bridges and the new lanes. The speed has gone up. Sorry, exit 7,
Route 17.
Route 17. Sorry, I misspoke. But because it's speed, and you see this across the United States, when you increase the speed of the traffic because you build all these new facilities, the crash rate goes up because people are traveling faster, right? So it's not unusual for the traffic, for the crash rate to go up after the new bridges and the new lanes were open. But it does seem like where the exit is constricted, can't handle all this additional traffic that's flying down, you then have these crashes. but we would like to see the data after, what was the date in 25 when the 2 months. So we only had 2 months, so we need to wait a few months to get the crash data to see whether it's improved in Spotsylvania. But it won't have improved at Route 3 because nothing's changed.
Yes, President.
So obviously VDOT realized that there were a lot of northbound accidents coming down through Spotsylvania Medical Center there and took the precautions to put in the reduced speed and, I mean, I comply with that when I see it. I would think that most people do. Has that helped with the reduction of crashes going northbound?
We're talking the variables.
Yes, sir.
I don't have data in front of me, I believe so it has. I believe that's been a successful program for us.
Okay, so then my next question would be, has VDOT started discussing what you can do for the southbound lanes to help alleviate some of these
So
crashes?
it's a little bit of a different situation. So we can look at it. Intent, my understanding, and on my first week here, but
Right.
Welcome again.
and of the variable speed limits was to manage traffic volumes as it approached future mainline congestion. Which is a little bit different of a scenario from a traffic perspective of managing traffic coming down and dealing with a high volume exit as opposed to through, and that's taking those observations at face value. It's playing a little bit of a different situation because of zero through crashes that are here happening at 126. So I think that is potentially very useful as well. Or maybe so that mitigation of southbound traffic where instead of the congestion rapidly increasing or past 126 per hour.
Okay. All right, so with that, but a completely different separate topic, and maybe the people from Spotsylvania can answer this. And I don't know if this is a discussion that VDOT has had, but I'm concerned about when Kalahari opens, what is that gonna do to everybody rubbernecking, either coming north or going south? And will there be walls up, or is everybody gonna be exposed to all the fun things that are happening over there?
Most of the park is gonna be indoors. The part that's outside is shielded by the actual buildings structure, so you won't see the outdoor portion of the water park from 95.
Are you sure?
We won't see any of it?
You see the buildings for the indoor park.
Yeah, but you see the colored
You
slides.
see the colored slabs?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's gonna stay.
You just won't see the park part,
Okay,
the water features and all that. They're shielded on or between 95 building structure, which is the inside part, the hotel, and on the backside of that, along Route 1 is where more of the outdoor parks.
The McDonald's indoor slide, I look at it every day.
I mean, it's huge. You're gonna look at it and go, what's that?
Oh, so it's Supervisor Hopkins, you're asking for.
I was just curious whether or not VDOT has had any conversations with Spotsylvania people as it relates to Kalahari.
Yeah, I mean, it's rezoning time.
Right, but I mean, as far as the northbound and southbound traffic distractions, if you will.
It's a pretty good distance from 126 to 118 too, so there's time for things to. Yeah, that's what I mean, Thornburg, there's
Yeah,
plenty
I'm
of.
not talking about really the exit per se. I'm just talking
95.
about the 95 distractions.
Like people driving.
I'm sure like when, sorry, Mr. Chair, when the Marine Corps Museum opened up, right? That was like a really big distraction too. I remember being like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's gonna be some of that, but I don't know that was ever any part of our conversations with VDOT, as I recall.
Mr. Chairman, just answer. Next question. No.
I was trying to put some meat on the bones when I answered it.
I will, I mean, I think we're looking at it now with all the cranes and everything that's there, so, and if nothing's happening now, I would suppose that nothing would happen in the future when it's finally built and it's there. But I will tell you through the entire process, heading back years, when Kalahari was looking, we had been told by VDOT that there would be no significant impact on traffic. And in fact, didn't even need a turn lane originally to get into Kalahari. And currently they have that, whatever that's called, that split median where you accelerate that. So, and the turn lane into there is what they say is sufficient. So I'm hoping
Okay.
that, I'm not a traffic engineer, so, you know, they looked at the numbers and did it. But I just don't know how a 900 room hotel with a 200,000 square foot convention center and a 15-acre indoor water park have less traffic than a Wawa. But that's just me. So, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Wow.
So next steps are,
So yes, we are going to work to get additional data on the crashes that may or may not have occurred after the opening of the improvements at exit 126, so we can see whether this problem has improved. Because if it's significantly improved, then we don't need to, you know, have a big song and dance about it. Maybe it's significantly improved. But we do think that leading up to these intersections, we need to keep watch on it. And if the traffic crash rate goes up further at exit 130, we're going to have to do something. Even if it's just a media campaign to say, guys, this is a crash hotspot, slow down, look where you're driving, cars may stop in front of you at short notice, you need to be alert. You know, afternoon is when it's happening. You're tired, you're coming home from your job in DC, you get to exit 130, you're listening to the radio, you're half asleep almost, bam, the car in front of you stops suddenly and you're not prepared for it. So maybe a little bit of a advertise the concern so that people start becoming more aware that this is a hotspot, you need to be careful. And depending on what the data tell us about the change in the crash rate at exit 126, maybe the same thing, right? Just alerting people that it's becoming a hotspot for crashes, you need to be aware. Northbound seems okay.
Question, the merge back when you're going 126 and you get the through lanes merging back with the lanes right after 3. Have we noticed I've noticed, I'd say, an increase in slowdowns because of the merge. Is that just, I mean, does the data show that, or am I just showing up at the wrong times of the traffic in that area? And then I'm wondering, that's why there's no crashes, because nobody's moving. So that might be it.
Yes, Rob Weber, the district traffic engineer, pointed that out too, when we pointed out the key finding of 0 crashes at the merge. He said, well, it's hard to get into a crash when it's 0 to 5 mile an hour average speed limit. So yes, the absence of crashes at the merge is not necessarily, it has its own, that's its own data point.
What's the, when you say 0 crashes at the merge? For what time?
That was looking at the total crashes in the public.
But like, when you say afternoon, is that from 2 to 6 p.m.? Is that from 3 to 5 p.m.? What is afternoon?
You just go back to the key finding. Or the surprise was that, you're right, it's 0 afternoon weekday crashes. So this is when we looked at that heavy traffic due to slowdown crashes.
it was on that same.
So just go back.
No.
Yeah, right there.
Just stop.
It was during the weekday afternoon hours between 12.
So the time when all the crashes are happening at exit 126, they're not happening at the merge.
But that segment's not at 5 miles an hour starting it. So
It says right there, 3 to 7 p.m., right? That's the peak.
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Have the highest.
I don't know. It's an answer. I don't know. Because I don't know if that 3 to 7 is the same as when we say 0 and they practice with that.
One, it's not, we had the earlier, many slides earlier, 12 noon to 7 p.m.
It's just 6, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm speaking anecdotally. And data in front of me to support any of this, but I would suspect that if we're looking at to 7, the answer to why is there crashes is not 7. Because traffic stopped, because traffic's not stopped from day till 7.
Well, and if I'm wondering, because I know in the discussions, we have talked about extending those local lanes further down, maybe to 126, and that way even incorporating the Harris Road interchange, that whole, this is big plan time. But if that doesn't, if that doesn't help with crashes, but it helps with traffic perhaps, but why are there no that's kind of weird thinking, because there isn't traffic all day long. But I just would like to keep that sort of on the front burner, that local lane concept going all the way down. I think that it definitely has help from 17 to 3. And if that would help, separate the traffic even further down, that would be something. And I think the sponsor would be interested in keeping that if we're going to do anything on that front. I suppose.
So the crashes are at route southbound to Route 3, and then all the crazy people are getting off at 3 and 126. Essentially, that's where all the action's happening.
My understanding is it's
Yeah,
mostly
seriously,
because,
that's what's
because
happening.
there's congestion on the.
Local street.
Back up on the highway and then it's.
Correct.
Through traffic is already
Which is,
in the mindset to just continue south. Yeah.
which is why it may have improved since 2 months ago, because you have opened additional capacity at exit 126. So it may have now improved that crash rate, but we won't know for a couple of months. We need to wait till we get that data, and I'm sure we'll get that data in time, and then we can show you again.
So is it fair to say, Mr. Allison, Mr. Henning, right, that the solution to the problem here lies on the local roads, most likely, right, to ensure that traffic that's exiting off 95 somewhere to go and is not backing up? So it's not a 95 problem per se, it's the fix lies on the local, on 3 and maybe on Route 1, although maybe we fixed that.
So you're not wrong.
Okay.
If we had traffic not backing up, we would have less crashes. However, and all of you hate it when we as planners say this, but we just have to say it because it is what it is. When you fix the constriction in the hose over here, you move the traffic further down the road, there's going to be another constriction somewhere. So this is a never-ending process, because every time you move more traffic over here, it's got to go somewhere, and wherever it goes, there's going to be a traffic light. So it's not a one item is going to ever totally fix the traffic problem. For the next 10 years, it's going to fix the problem, but then the traffic will back up somewhere else, and that's how it works. It's like water. There's no end to the traffic. It's just a management of the traffic that you have to do.
But we could push it to Caroline.
Right. Yes, you could. Yes, you could push it into Caroline.
And as we look at this and assess this, it's important to best understand the problem to remember that there's a difference. And we use both in this conversation between number of accidents and accident rates.
Yes.
And certainly wanting to reduce accident rates everywhere is what effort and should be urged. There needs to be an understanding that no matter how much we reduce those rates, our highest quantity of accidents are going to happen where we have highest volumes of traffic.
Yes.
Most frequent. So that's if we're going to look at numbers, according to accounting numbers, it's going to be
Just to add to that, I mean, you just made me think of what it used to be on the merge going to Garrisonville. It's better now after Route 3 than it was north. So as much as it looks like it's really, really bad, it's nowhere near what it was for north when the merge was in the north part, because
Which is like,
substantial amount of people have gotten off at 17 and Route 3. So
this is why you have to look at the rate.
the rate,
1,000
yeah, I was going to say,
per million.
because the rate is,
And you also have to look at the total volume that you're pushing through. You need to know what that volume is when you're doing comparisons.
Yeah.
We move ever increasing volumes through the region, except as you saw in that slide, by 126 southbound, we're still about 1,000 vehicle trips short of what it was in 2019. So that section hasn't yet rebounded, which might also be why that intersection is performing a little better. We haven't quite got back to 2019 levels. Route 3 has surpassed 2019 levels. So Route 3 is being hammered now because it's back to before.
Yep.
And exit 126 has still got a little bit of time to go, but it's getting there real quick. So it's going to get there shortly.
Right, you know, but, Hayes is steady down. It's relative to. Downer. No, I'm saying when you make the comment and say, I don't want to be Debbie Downer. No, let me take over.
Right.
No, I'm just saying that I know that, it's good news that, you know, we've moved the traffic, but I just think it's accurate until we know how many people are working from home, or until we know how many people will not be working, period. And for us to have a good assessment, I know we have to do what we need to do with the traffic that we currently have. But in order for you to work on rates and all that kind of stuff, I just think that we don't have the right numbers. And I'm not saying that we need to wait for that, but we do need to that in the back. If we're doing all of this.
Well, I mean, we have tomorrow today. You're asking if we know
Yeah.
exactly what the traffic growth rate. A little bit, but you're asking to figure out what the rates are today. Yeah, that's we can absolutely. Those are hard numbers. Those are based off the actual counts today, and you can go back to this today. That's not based off of any type of future theoretical numbers.
So no, I'm speaking to some of the comments, why it's much better now.
no, I meant
And,
just
you
generally
know,
for
in
the
general.
volume going south.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all I meant.
I agree, but. it's
The funnel
all
is
even
narrower down here because it was bigger. So that's,
better. Of course,
Yeah.
yeah. Sure.
One last question. So given this information has come out, you know, and everybody talks about public transparency and all of that, we as a planning organization and then working obviously hand in hand with VDOT, are you all planning to do anything to share this information with the public now that it's out? What are your thoughts?
So right now at this moment,
There's nothing to say.
what our first step would be receiving that data and vetting it. So understanding it, there's but not that saying anything in this has been done incorrectly or inaccurate. But you know, right now, just based off of this description, you know, we're not asking how that work. So any Indian data. Methodology.
Okay.
My sense is we're probably very comfortable with the data, but data that was.
Right, but you've got to confirm the analysis and validate your own numbers. But if we're into making safety improvements and saving lives, at what point in time would you guys come back and say, and maybe the policy committee should be making a recommendation, we would like to see something from VDOT that's realistic so that we can push this information out if we want people to slow down, if we, whatever we want people to do, right? Food for thought.
I think just.
Okay, okay. 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 Sounds good. It's a deal.
All right,
The next, we're moving into this.
okay. We ready to move on to item 9C, the FAMPO Complete Street? Ms. Hinkle?
I'm gonna queue out. You don't need. Yeah.
You carry on.
All right, hey everyone. So yes, I'm talking about the complete streets plan we've been working on developing. So to start off, this is just definition of what are complete streets. And those are policies or standards for transportation planning for all users of the transportation network, so that they have access to safe and adequate travel. And this second paragraph just highlights specific subgroups within that definition, all users. So we are creating a complete streets plan to address safety and accessibility needs in the region and to support our region's funding applications for transportation projects. We are doing this using a network-wide approach where context matters. Not every street is intended to be a complete street, and we're focusing on the urbanized area in the region. Both of these are so that we can prioritize a connected network and not one sidewalk for the sake of a sidewalk, but a sidewalk that makes sense, prioritizing a connected network that works as a whole together. So far working on this plan, there's been 2 tools that I've helped to develop, and this is the first one that I'm showing. And you all have access to this, but these are some interactive maps. And this first one is to really identify and define that safety issue that I was talking about our region having, and that this plan is going to develop or is going to address. So these are crashes involving cyclists and pedestrians in the FAMPO region between 2016 and just the very beginning of 2024. You can see based on the legend over here that they are classified based on crash severity. And in that total almost 8-year period, there were 415 crashes. 37 of those 415 were fatal in the region. So you can.
Just a moment if you.
Yes. Oh,
Got a question.
yes.
How do you find out about these crashes?
So this data set was taken directly from VDOT's Pathways for Planning, and they have an entire crash data set that I believe Becky was using somewhat. And these are just taken out of that involving cyclists and pedestrians.
But somebody would have to report it, I guess is my
Is
my point.
Yeah.
Right? So if like, a cyclist,
Right.
bumped a car or a car bumped a cyclist and they both went about, it would never make it.
So, yeah, these have to be reported crashes, and VDOT gets a feed of data from all of the police departments. So when the police, when they document a crash where there's been an injury or a fatality, that goes into a database, and VDOT gets access to that data anonymized, because we don't know the people's names and all that other stuff. It's just that there was a crash and that someone was killed, or that there was a crash and someone was seriously injured or whatever. That feeds into VDOT's database, and VDOT makes the anonymized data available to planners to be able to do this research.
Yes. And
So
so
if the police don't report it, it probably won't get into the data set.
Or if the people don't report it.
And
Or they report it and there still aren't injuries. They're like, I'm good, let's go. Yeah.
You could see a bunch on Route 3 there and a bunch on US 1 and stuff.
anyway, you all are welcome to visit this interactive map, explore these crashes, and those reports that we're talking about helped inform all this data, which is just unedited, taken directly from VDOT, but it will include like the crash year and The crash severity is symbolized, but that's also included, and any more details that are available about the crash. So that is the first tool we have developed, and again, that's just identifying the safety issue that the plan will address. Where? Moving on, our complete streets plan will not only address safety issues in the region, but also the issues of access. So this is just an initial dive into some figures depicting access in our region. And from the American Community Survey, these are the percentages and numbers of occupied housing units that either don't have access to a vehicle or only have access to one vehicle. So those households have limited access to travel if they do not have a car. Yeah.
Yeah, is there a way to disaggregate particularly the one vehicle data to separate out one person households from other households, right? Because like a one person household with one car has car access, right?
Yeah.
But a 4-person household with one car doesn't.
Yeah. And
Has limited car access.
I had thought about this, and my initial solution was to look at the same American Community Survey data on occupied housing units and see how many 1-bedroom or no bedroom households are in the same area, 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom to 4-bedroom. And I didn't include that information on this slide, but I will say that these numbers, how do I say this right? There were like fewer no bedroom. It was more than we'd expect for just purely aligning with like a studio apartment or 1-bedroom.
1-person household, okay.
Yes.
So it'll be hard to get concrete numbers, but we can assume a certain percentage of those one vehicle households are under-resourced in terms of car access
They have more people.
than cars, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a very good reason why you can't get that information. And that is that the Census Bureau at the very local level will not give you enough information so you can identify which household it is. So they
I see.
on purpose block your knowledge. So at the aggregate level, at a higher architecture, you can get all the information, but the minute you go down to very local, they're going to block you because they don't want you to know what your neighbor's situation is. So it's on purpose blocked.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I do have just a quick question. It's a survey. So is it a survey for actual numbers? Because, I mean, a survey, people don't answer surveys or they lie. So
Yes.
how do they get selected?
Yeah, so I'm not entirely like super familiar with the American Community Survey methodology. I just know it's to supplement the census, which is really detailed counting of all residents in an area. But the community survey has a lot of like additional details, but again, it's not as comprehensive of a data collection where you knock on everyone's door.
So the
Sample size.
the community survey is a sample rather than an attempt to get everybody. So because it's not do you say decennial, decennial? How do you say?
Decennial.
Decennial, because it's not the decennial census. They survey a smaller number of people, but it's randomly selected across every county and jurisdiction so that it is still representative, but it's not as many people that are surveyed. So you're getting it's a percentage of the population that does X rather than.
It is statistically significant though, correct?
Yes.
Sample,
It also doesn't tell you why.
Yes.
To have like just an older person that lives there who doesn't need a car because their family lives next door and they drive them everywhere anyway. So,
It's almost people on FXB Go, you know?
well, yeah, I mean.
Okay, I'm really gonna bring him to throw it. You just need to know.
All right, Ms. Hinckliffe.
That's fine. So this was an attempt to, begin identifying and defining that access issue. The crash map was to identify that safety issue. And these are the components of the complete streets plan that will go into addressing, again, that safety and accessibility issue. So the first here is developing street typologies to create regional guidelines for complete streets planning. Then identifying priority corridors and network connections. So, establishing prioritization guidelines, maintaining a list of regional multimodal projects, and again, identifying funding sources that this document will hopefully help support applications. So here we get to I got to show you my other cool tool. That's another interactive map, a little bit different. Oh, yes. Thank you. So this is a map of the existing conditions in our region. The existing facilities and infrastructure for both transit and bike ped. If it would just open for me. Okay, there we go. And again, this is something that I encourage you all to come and visit and explore, check out. But here, I'll just call your attention to this toolbar on the left-hand side in the layers pane. You can control what is displayed on this map. So right now, everything's up here, so it can be a little bit overwhelming. But I have each of these layers grouped into transit and bike and pedestrian facilities. And you can click the eye to cover all of transit. And here you're just seeing that active transportation network, what sidewalks exist in the region, what shared use paths exist in the region. We also have the bike lanes and shared streets. And turning this on, you can see bus stops, FXB Go routes. These are park and ride lots and the train stations. So we just wanted to really capture, again, the existing conditions of our multimodal network that already exists. And most of these you can come and click on, and there's more information that it just doesn't want me to click on them really right now, but it would, here we go, show you like the name of the trail. It'll show you the name of the bus route. I think the name of the park and ride lot too. The bus stops will say whether or not there is a shelter or a bench at them. And also I should have mentioned this earlier, but there is a legend here that you can pull up too for reference to see what all of this stuff is. And another cool thing, one of my favorite things about this is it's pretty much a living map. So we have, and I'm gonna go actually back to the power. You all are the fourth FAMPO committee we presented to. I've shared this with the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, our Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee, our Technical Advisory Committee. And we're going around and just asking everyone to check out these existing conditions and confirm that they're accurate. And as I get feedback, I can edit that map and the link doesn't change. As you all keep visiting it, hopefully it'll be refined, more accurate, into a better version that depicts what's actually out there in the concrete in our network. And this kind of goes into what our next steps are. So we're meeting with some other stakeholder groups, but we'll continue working with FAMPO committees to evaluate and incorporate the existing plans. Right now, this is just the existing infrastructure as it is. And all your localities already have plans for expanding this network. So we need to consider those, of course. And after ensuring that those are accurate and adding those to the map, then we can identify needs, where are there gaps in our network, and compile a regional list. And continue, again, in our next steps to develop all those elements of the plan that I have talked about earlier. So immediately, I don't know if anyone had already clicked around this earlier, but if there's any existing conditions that are inaccurate, you can let me know, or email, please check it out on your own time. Look around where you live and see if it's matching up with reality. And I know this meeting's run a little long. We can pause here for any initial questions or reactions, or I can just move on with the rest of my presentation.
I just have a quick question.
Okay.
Would it be, I know that we're going to talk in a little bit about your bicycle pedestrian counter things. Is there a way to get that data into these maps so that you can look at these paths based on usage?
Oh, I think sure. There's something, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see them so that they're
about how it will be
Database.
bigger or smaller depending on usage, right? Or different colors depending on usage. So you could see the network, but also like the hotspots.
Yeah.
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 Still thought.
A good thought. Okay, I'll think about how we can make that happen. Some version. Okay, and then seeing no other motion to stop, we're just going to move right ahead to introducing street typologies. Again, I said this would be a tool for developing regional guidelines for our complete streets planning. So you all may or may not be familiar with how we already classify the roadways. This is a federal thing. I was on the Federal Highway Administration's like guidebook for functional classifications earlier today, reading through. VDOT has their own functional classification system. And these are where streets are mostly designated or classified based on function. And that is kind of determined by your priority. If it's mobility, moving through an area, kind of going from one activity center to another activity center, or if it's land access, your neighborhood street, you want to be able to pull off the street into your house right there. And ultimately, the whole idea behind street typologies is that this doesn't always work for the multimodal network. An example of this, just to like put it into some local perspective for you all, because I decided to click around the region and see what our functional classification says. But in Stafford County, Garrisonville Road and Brook Road are the same functional classification. But when you think about the multimodal network and what it might look like on those roads, I mean, they look totally different. They feel very different. Additionally, downtown streets, Princess Anne and Caroline Street, share the same functional classification as Route 208 going out through Spotsylvania County and 218 in Stafford. So there's reason to it, but street typologies are establishing street typologies would establish criteria to classify streets and then apply appropriate facilities for the multimodal network. And again, in a way that's just a little bit more context sensitive, takes into account what the streets actually look like in a region, in addition to how they're functioning. Again, this would help us to plan a complete network, looking at the street system we already have. And because there is a lot of retrofitting we have to do with these multimodal facilities and sidewalks, shared use paths. And it's not just a one size fits all prescription. This is what a complete street look like. This is what a complete street looks like. It looks like this for every street. We're saying that's not the case. Interventions look different depending on the context, depending on what the road is already doing in the network. This would also help to standardize intervention implementation throughout the region, so that if you're traveling on a similar roadway in Stafford and you move into the city, go into Spotsylvania, you're being met with the same facilities. You're not having to sidewalk to bike lane to shared use path, ideally, and also could just be a tool for the public. Jumped ahead a little fast there. But this column on the right is just some typologies that other areas have come up with for street typologies for complete streets planning. That's where this idea comes from, seeing it in place in other regions that are doing complete streets planning work, and some questions we would have to answer if we use this method to, again, guide complete streets planning in our own region. That I'll leave with you. And again, take answers tonight, take them over email, after. I know you all probably want to get home. I will just highlight, we are, again, going to some additional stakeholder groups outside of our FAMPO committees to talk about this plan. So this Wednesday, we'll be going to Disability Resource Center, and then to Fredericksburg Pathways Committee next week, and the not next week, 2 weeks. Public Transportation Advisory Board and Spotsylvania Transportation Committee, we're coming to you all in November. And of course, hope to continue to present to FAMPO committees, to whoever would like to hear about this plan, and engaging the public throughout the process.
Apparently Stafford doesn't have any committee that we can present.
I
Get the same committees,
There's no,
you have a transportation committee.
well,
I've heard.
we were told that the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee doesn't currently
Well, it doesn't exist anymore.
exist.
Oh, that one, yes,
So we don't have a committee we can present to. We'd love to present to Stafford. We'd love to present to Stafford, so if you can think of a committee or a meeting that we can present at. we'll
Just a
happily-
work session. It's just one of our work sessions. That's it. We get
Okay.
regular updates on transportation, the same ones you've come to before.
Okay. There you go, Lita. You got to get invitation to the work session.
And then there's the glamour shots, as someone called them at another committee. But yeah, thank you all for the work that you have done and continue to do helping transportation in the region. And again, you can reach us here with any feedback about this plan. I'd be so happy to take it now as well, and answering those questions, letting me know about the existing conditions if there's anything that's inaccurate on those. But again, you'll keep hearing about this process as we continue on. And that's all I have to say. So.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
That's
you.
great. I really appreciate it. I think I'd like to suggest, yeah, to the committee members that we share those interactive features widely, right? I'm really impressed at the extent to which they are, crowdsourcing wisdom. So let's get the crowd as big as we can. All right, thank you. Let's on to item 9D, the purchase of additional bicycle ped counters.
Thanks, Chairman. The policy committee asked us to get quotations on additional bike counters, new ones. And so we've got 2 quotations for you. The one is without the facility to download the data remotely. And the slightly more expensive option gives you that remote access so that even though the bike counter is out in rural Spotsylvania, from the office, you'd be able to download the data. You don't have to drive all the way to that spot. And there's a whole drama that we've had with, you've got to have a cell phone to connect to that counter to download data onto a phone, and it's a whole palaver. If we're going to go this route, we would prefer that we get the slightly more expensive models because they have a way that people can from their office look at the data. It's a lot more sense today. But anyway, so we were asked to get a quote for 4. So we did get a quotation for 4, and that's what it looks like. You can see the unit price in the first column, and then for the full 4 in the top. So that's what it would cost.
Oh, and this was
What kind of
idea.
funds do we have that could be used for that? And how do we go about that?
So the TAC asked that question as well, and I asked the TAC to answer it themselves, basically, because FAMPO's internal funding this year is more limited than usual to run our office. So the only funding sources that I know about are the CMAC SDGB funds, which we will be allocated in March. And the policy committee has it's written into the policy, which you're about to adopt now, actually, that you are empowered to recommend to the TAC that we set aside funding for a special item each year that if you wish to. So if you wish to fund bike counters, you would make that recommendation to the TAC, and then we would look within the pool of funds which will become available by March for the funding to be able to do this. The question is, if we wanted to proceed, how many do we really need? And there's 2 sides to that coin. The first one is, how much data do you want? How many bike paths do you simultaneously want to be covering? But the second part of that is, how much staff resource time have you got to dedicate to it? Because you've got to physically go out there every 2 or 3 weeks to go and move that counter to another spot, right? Unless you buy permanent ones and just stick them. Typically, we have just a couple of these and we move them. But that means staff members got to drive out to Spotsylvania, collect the thing, then go to Stafford and put it in. So we don't, as a staff here, there's 6 of us, we don't actually want to get a whole bunch ourselves, right? We could do with 2, and then we will be able to move those 2 around. But if you want like 6 of them, we'd encourage each jurisdiction to get one of their own, which their own staff will be able to move wherever you want. And then FAMPO will have 2 that we can move ourselves, but we don't actually want 6 of them because I'll have to pull people off other jobs just to drive out all the time to go move the counters.
Wouldn't the idea of having more, like say 4, you could leave them out longer. You don't need to be running out constantly moving the one you have and getting data in short little bursts. You'll do your analysis on the areas that you're most interested in, where you want to leave something for a longer period of time, because it's important to collect that data over time, right? And just a matter of, and I did think about the locality having one, but now we'd have to delegate someone to interact. And
I've got the same problem. I've only 6 staff, and counties have got, how many staff do you have? Planning
In
staff?
transportation, not many.
Not many.
well, I mean, if I may ask Leda a question, you were wanting to use, you have goals with this data, not just what's nice to know, right? So, how do you see just the ability to, all things aside, what would 4 more do for you as far as being able to have a better or a common operating picture on your goals?
I think kind of like what you said about them being up for longer. One of the weaknesses maybe with the program right now is that the weather can really, for 2 weeks, if there's a bad weather event, that can really have an impact on the data for that whole 2-week period. And I'm trying to mitigate that by cycling through. So in a 2-year period, I'll put it up at different times of the year, but that's kind of just lengthening the time that we would get a more accurate idea of what that site looks like. Yeah, in addition to just more geographic coverage and faster, I guess.
But do we need to consider like you guys doing some sort of study or not study, but collect information that would allow you to come back to us and say, if we had 4, here's the plan on how we could put them in over this kind of a phased time frame to collect whatever we need.
Can I ask a question now instead of waiting, Chairman?
Yep.
How many more would facilitate the work that you're doing or enhance it?
That's what we came up with 4 last time.
Well, is that what the 4 is? And so if that's the case, then why are we deliberating? But so how many will you be moving around, even if you have to keep them in a place longer? If it's just you doing this, then you don't necessarily need 4 then. Unless we had extra staff.
It's a lot of locations she's trying to do with 1 right now.
I think there's a lot of variables in this, like just how we would run the program with this many counters. How long are we leaving them up? Or some being.
Maybe that's what we need, the program, the plan.
Write up a scope or something.
Yes,
That's probably what we need.
Okay.
that's what I asked.
Sure, often put them as sites to help them support their funding application. So that's one of the reasons that we'd like to have more of them. And in light of that, and I'm just having brainstorm here, so it's not a FAMPO approved idea, but what if we could maybe have some help from a couple of the locality staff members sometimes in the counters in their locality? Sure, then we're supporting your project. We could have some sort of partnership between us and the locality to assist with we're going, the whole region is sharing the data with the counties. Help all of us.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Supervisor Hayes and Supervisor Wong.
So I think, number one, it's not a bad idea, but I do think that that's something that we should probably be talking to our transportation staff and county administrator before we volunteer them for something that maybe they can't do for some unknown reason. And then also on the money piece, this would take away from the CMAQ, you said?
Well, we only have 2 sets of money. We have the money that we use for paying the rent, paying staff, paying for the paper and everything else, which is at the limit now because the DRPT funding was much lower than we expected, etc. Then we have CMAQ, STGB, and congestion funding, carbon reduction funding, which gets allocated once a year and which we have this methodology to allocate. So if you wanted to pursue this and we allocated $19,000 to buying 4 of these bike counters, it would take away $90,000 from the pot. That's what it would do.
So can we,
A pot of, John, what are we gonna have in March?
Probably looking around 8 to 9 million.
8 or 9 million.
Can we add it to budget? I mean, right now they just got the estimates. We don't need to act necessarily.
right, I was
Yeah.
thinking maybe we could take the information that we got from this
See what we
and
can
then go
find.
back to our prospective counties and.
Sure,
cities.
let's bring it back next month to the policy committee if you want that. This wasn't our staff idea.
Yeah.
This came from
Right,
the
right.
policy committee.
I mean, I would just say, I think it's really important that we make at least some investment in these, given that ours are on their last leg.
Right,
Right?
right.
You know, I would be comfortable supporting 4 or 2, right? Given that the staff has planned their study agenda around the idea of 2, right? And their staff time. So, you know, asking for more might make things more complicated, right? So I think we should consider supporting 2 in order to save money, conserve those CMAQ, STVG resources for other things. But I do think we do have to do something because we need to be collecting this data. Supervisor Yakubowski. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot.
I'll
Yeah.
let you go first.
I'm sorry.
Yield to the gentleman.
I'm sorry, Meg. I'm getting tired and not keeping the list in my head.
Are you asking for a motion tonight?
No.
No.
Okay, because if not, I would like to take it back to our board because I would like to get and see if our folks can work a little bit more hand in glove with you guys.
Okay.
Especially when there's a lot of requests that are being asked.
Mhm.
So if we could take it back
Yeah.
and then in a month bring it back, that would be great.
I have no problem with that. Sorry, I
No worries. It's-
lost the list in my head.
I just agree with what Supervisor Hayes said. And I couldn't personally support 4. I could support 2, maybe 3. But the one that we have is operational, right? Or is it on its last leg? Yes. Oh. Okay, so then at a minimum, we would probably need 1 for each locality. So, and I recommend taking it back to the, and is it gonna come out of CMAQ or STBG or CR monies?
No.
Well, we will
Gotta
have to,
One of them.
we'll have to tell you next month because I don't know the detail. There's a wrinkle. CMAQ money is really funny. You can use it for some things that are obvious and then other things that are not so obvious. For example, you can use it for planning, but you can't use it for planning if you're going to plan to increase the capacity on the road with the thing that you're going to build out as a result of the planning. So you can plan, but you just can't plan for another lane on the road.
Bring it back to.
So we'll bring it back to you.
Recommendations of
with-
what we can and can't do.
That's
Right.
correct.
Okay.
One of those 3 will be able to fund it, I promise you, maybe more.
So we will take this month, have chat with our folks back in our home jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Bring this subject up again next month.
Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. All right, thank you.
That will come.
All right, let's move on to item 9E, which is resolution 26-24, adopting the updated CMAQ CR STBG methodology.
Okay, real quick, if I did the methodology, revisions on the previous meeting, we had the public comment. And we're basically coming back to y'all to formalize that we are moving forward with the urban and the population and urban population split with designated set asides for both our GW Ride Connect, air bills for our solution. Stafford TMA set asides for STG, as well as the transit set asides and carbon reduction. Right now, we've opened our call for projects, told the jurisdictions that we're bringing it final vote. So if you choose not to adopt this, we revert to the previous methodology that was adopted about years ago. And then, which is the scoring process for the pots of funds, or we go to the urban and urbanized population formula for the distribution of funds.
I'll move for approval of resolution 26-24.
Second.
So
Sorry, yeah.
So as I looked at I think it's page 21 that shows the split that we voted on a while ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I think that's the most important piece in the whole document. And everybody, while it wasn't in agreement with everyone, that's what it was when we took it. So I think that's the most important page. I just wanted to bring that to people.
So there's no change on.
No.
Correct.
Counselor Groah?
I agree, that's the most important page. I voted against this then, I'm gonna vote against it now. The reason being is that when we talk about congestion, I get the fact that we are looking at the urbanized population numbers. I don't get the fact that we are doing a 50-50 split between that number and general population. Because in my mind, congestion happens more in the urbanized areas than in the rural areas. Why we're weighting this in favor of the more rural areas by including the entire population of the county, something I don't understand unless it's just to get more money for your projects. When I came on this board 3.5 years ago, I was looking forward to more regional cooperation. And I have seen my friends around this table done a good job of regional cooperation. We still have a little more work to do. And I think this is an example where I'm not comfortable with allocating funds based on numbers that have nothing to do with urbanized congestion. I would like to go with pure urbanized population model rather than a blend of general's jurisdictional population. That's all. That's all I have to say about that. Does anybody agree with me or?
Yeah.
Fredericksburg agrees with it. That's what I'm saying, right? Is we're all friends. We work together. But when you talk about money, how much money my jurisdiction is going to get for a project, that's where it really gets tough to work cooperatively. And I hope we can do a better job of it next time than we've done here.
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that this is, I think it misses the spirit of these programs, right, which are designed to reduce congestion. I think that this is the spirit of, I think, dividing the money up and then going and each playing in our own little sandboxes misses the spirit of regionalism and regional cooperation. I guess I wasn't around for much of the bad old days, right, when there was fighting over individual projects, right? But I guess what I would say to that is that democracy and working towards collaboration consensus is messy and ugly, but I think it's what we should be doing, right? Is considering projects regionally, right, and distributing this money regionally. And this strikes me as perhaps more peaceful for this committee over the next 2 years or whatever the period is we adopt this for. But I think we are chickening out and not doing the hard work by just giving the money to the jurisdictions and letting everybody go play in their own sandbox. To me, that is, we are abrogating our responsibility as a regional planning organization. So I definitely am not going to support this either. I think that we are chickening out of doing the hard work here.
That's two. Can we get more?
So I'd like to comment on, and not disagreeing with you at all, but congestion is relative to who it's affecting. And if 30,000 people or 28,000 or whatever it is is one cohort and 155 is another, I can argue all day long about Courthouse Road and Route 3 and Levels Road, and that's far more volume than goes to the city on a regular day. So I'm just saying, I'm not disagreeing with you from because you're an urban. It impacts you differently because you're in an urban environment. I totally agree with that.
Well, I'm not talking about the impact on my constituents because I sit in traffic on Courthouse Road and your constituents sit on traffic on Route 1 in the city, right? So that's why I think to me, it strikes me as foolish to talk about, like people don't only sit in congestion in their own jurisdictions. People sit in congestion wherever it is, right? So I think we should be attacking the congestion where it is, which is why if we were going to be considering individual projects and there's a really strong one on Courthouse Road, of course I'd support that because my constituents and I sit in traffic.
I would say that,
so just like you guys all sit in traffic in the city's hotspots or in Stafford's hotspots, right? That's why I think it's not like people don't only sit in traffic in their own jurisdiction.
I agree with you.
Right?
I use Lafayette and Blue Gray, and you use Courthouse to go to Hazelwild or wherever.
Yeah.
But if we had a project that we did say that was a regional project, that like say it was an interchange or an off-ramp at Harrison Road, right? Well, then we would have funds to direct towards that. Because that 40% we could push towards that and it would benefit you.
But isn't that a decision that we should be arriving at collectively as a region in the spirit of region?
If we had those regional projects teed up, I'd agree. We don't. We don't. It's a theory right now. We just went through it with the river crossing. So, sorry, that's how I feel about it.
Well, and I agree, that's what we're trying to avoid, not that it's happening now, but in the process to a better place was to avoid the pure democracy of, you know, you guys in Stafford voted for a river crossing and it doesn't matter what we do. So that was the rationale behind splitting it up, was to allow each jurisdiction to pick their hotspots and their problem areas. And not to avoid the others, because we are splitting it up. But I'm right with you. I mean, we talk all the time. We're sitting next to each other. We all get along.
You ate off my plate.
That's where that is, at least for this little pot of money, and we'll work together on everything else.
Yeah,
I think what everybody has said is valid. Makes sense. And I guess for me, just being a part of FAMPO for so many years and seeing just the good, the bad, and a lot of ugly, which Greg never had to participate in. Maybe he heard about it down in Richmond. I'm sure he did. This board could turn over after November. And so then you don't really know where you are. You know, we could have a lot of new faces sitting here. So I guess for me, at the end of the day, I've got to support my Stafford constituents. And I mean, I agree with you about the regionalism, but reality is it's part of politics, unfortunately. So anyway.
I just think it's a shame that peace has been bought at the expense of the cities, but go ahead.
I'll just, add to, it is, all of this is traffic is a regional problem. And, you talked about Route 3. Route 3 is not just a Spotsy issue, right? And whatever you all do in your part of Route 3 affects our part of Route 3. And Route 1, same thing, right? So to me, it makes sense for us to approach all of these things regionally. And, of course, Fredericksburg, we don't like the formula, but I agree with Will in that, to me, it's more about the regionalism and the idea of what FAMPO is than it is about the formula. So.
Okay, shall we vote?
Does anybody online want to say anything?
Yeah, I heard some clicking noises, but.
I have no further comments.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Abstentions? One. Okay, so the motion passes 6 to 3 to 1. I think I did that math right? Yes. 6 to 3 to 2, sorry.
Joe Stansbury, Joseph Stansbury, votes your vote.
Joe?
I was actually asked to abstain if that's possible.
That is possible.
Noted. Just kidding.
Okay, let's move on to item 10, correspondence.
I'll take this one, it's quick. This is just a letter. If you can pull it up on the screen, John. This is a letter sent by VAMPO. As you know, VAMPO is the Association of MPOs around the
evil
state.
twin.
Yes.
And so, so I'm currently the second vice chair of VAMPO, and VAMPO sent a letter to the secretary about smart scale. And, the letter's in your pack. It's basically just saying we aren't really consulted when other state organizations are consulted about all the rules that go into the smart scale process. And VAMPO feels that the MPOs should be consulted when you're drawing up V-Trans needs. Remember, if there's no V-Trans need, you can't submit a project in that area because there's no V-Trans need. And also on the drawing up of the technical guide, They workshopped it with PDCs, they didn't workshop it with MPOs, and FAMPO feels that that's a mistake. So it's a fairly nicely worded letter, I should think. And just letting you know that this has happened because you may have your own thoughts about smart scale and the future of the program. That's all. There's no decision we're required to make on that. It was just informing the policy committee about what's happening with FAMPO.
Okay, let's move on to item 11, staff and agency reports. Upcoming information tables, Mr. Lyon.
Similarly, very quick, it's just a list of the information tables that we're going to from this policy committee up to the next one. Closest one is this Saturday at the Resource Center Fall Family Festival. Posting on it also, posting about it on social media a couple days in advance, so do that. Repost it, let your constituents know, come to the festival, okay.
John, if you can just click on the website. The website finally went live this afternoon. Yay.
I got an
The
email.
revamped website, there it is. We hope you enjoy it. If you see any little technical things that aren't quite right, let us know, but we think it's working well. And thanks to Eugene and also to Lee Anderson there's Lee Anderson.
Sure.
Lee, Eugene worked for months building the new website, and Lee helped us with a long list of technical difficulties to actually get it to launch. So thank you to both of them for all their hard work.
And I did lodge a complaint about this on our host, the server. They have deployed and destroyed alphabetically right together, and I destroyed. I destroyed Eugene's website. Eugene had to start all over.
All right, is this on this or?
Yeah.
Built it twice.
All right, so Supervisor Young has a quick question on this staff reports.
Yeah, quick question to Eugene. Hello, quick question to Eugene. It says Porter Library, and so what exactly, because it didn't say on the screen, what exactly we're doing at Porter Library?
Oh, we do pop-up events at the library sometimes, where we set up a table there, anyone who wants to talk to us.
Oh, okay, I mean, if you want, I mean, we have a meeting tomorrow, if you want to send me a blurb, I'll, say, at the meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, great, what time is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, item 12,
Information.
board member and chair comments. I understand Supervisor
Yeah.
Hayes has a board comment.
Yeah, so I just want to thank FAMPO, thank everyone who supported, and VDOT, who supported getting the light on Route 2. It's up, it's beautiful, it's great. It is so nice to not just cringe every time I approach that intersection and worry about people being hit there. So it's an honor, to the the people that were killed there, not die in vain. And I'm just so pleased, and I just want to thank everyone who supported that, and Kyle was a big supporter of getting that in, and so I just want to tell everybody, and there are some tweaks that will need to be done as we move forward, but so much better.
Thanks to VDOT for arranging it.
Right. Anybody else need a comment?
Bye.
My only chair comment is I've done a bang up job being fast
Yes.
tonight. I'd like to about how quick I've been. Yes,
Out so strong.
Went off the rails, right?
yeah.
I didn't do all that talking, you did.
All right, so our next meeting is on October 20th at 6 p.m. and we are adjourned.
All right, thank you, Chair, and thanks to everybody.
I just wanted to-
Right?
No.